Buffalo, and Anthony Allen had a big day for the Washington Redskins. He set a yardage receiving record down there. All of this coming your way this evening as things will be moving very rapidly. And our big focus tonight, of course, will be in Chicago. And Mike Adamle is live there where the 28 player representatives are meeting tonight. Mike?
Well, Frank, as Harry Carson and Lynn Swan said, all 28 player reps are here in Chicago. They declined to comment on the meeting tonight until after it is over, which could be as late as 1 o'clock in the morning. The only thing we really can say right now is that the union solidarity is a lot stronger than we are led to believe, and any reports of the union breaking down and going back to the business of playing football without a new collective bargaining agreement are premature. As I mentioned, they are behind closed doors right now. The executive council is at about 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. Then all 28 player reps will meet, and hopefully before this game is over, we'll have word on the outcome. Frank?
Thank you, Mike. And Mike will be monitoring that situation around Chicago. We could get a report at any time. And Al, the interesting thing is that there's so much now seemingly working against the strike for the players. It began to develop last week with nearly 100 players defected, but there are so many other things also.
Lonely in here tonight,
yes.
I'll tell you that much. Let's take a look at some of the numbers over the weekend. First of all, in-stadium attendance, pretty terrible. Through the first 2 weeks of the season, the average crowd in the NFL was 58,000. Yesterday, just under 17,000. That's a precipitous 70% in-stadium decline, and the players win a victory of sorts, I suppose, there. But the television ratings were surprisingly good. Now, ratings are subject to various interpretations, but generally speaking, the ratings were down marginally, about 14%. In fact, more than twice as many people watched the NFL yesterday than watched the most important regular season baseball game of the year, the game between Detroit and Toronto. So the owners can say, hey, we won that battle. For years, we've heard the word parity. The NFL wants it. They may have the ultimate parity this year. The way things are going, we could have Tampa Bay and Indianapolis in the Super Bowl. But as far as I'm concerned, in one weekend, the NFL may have gone from parity to parody. In fact, yesterday, the only thing missing, I suppose, was Ted Mack introducing some starting lineups. Speaking of the original amateur hour, have you met my partner, Dan? Only kidding, Hoss.
Off to a rough start already.
We've got a game here tonight, San Francisco against New York, kind of.
Kind of is right. Thanks, Al. I'll deal with you later. We do have a game here tonight between the Giants and the 49ers. And, during the regular season, it's kind of a case of have and have-nots in the NFL. And these are two definite teams that are on the have side of the ledger. But not so tonight, because now it's a case of the dids and the did-nots. Who got ready to field a strike team? Well, clearly the San Francisco Giants did. They're one of the best San Francisco 49ers. They're one of the best teams in the NFL right now. A good squad. But look at the New York Giants on the other side. They may be the worst team in the National Football League. They were looking and are looking at going 0-3, the defending world champions. It's never happened before. We'll see tonight.
So here we go before a sparse gathering. Yesterday they had 12,000 and change in the stadium for the game between the Jets and the Cowboys. The Giants to receive Ed Beacham and Robert DeRico with Jeff Brockhouse to kick off for the 49ers. And the final game of this third weekend of play is underway. And from the 14-yard line, a good run back out to the 36 by Earl Beacham. Now, none of the regulars have crossed either picket line, so they are all replacement players, scab players, if you will, whatever you want to call them. And a look now at the lineup for the Giants. Jim Prochikia out of the University of Pennsylvania has never been in the NFL. He makes his debut. And there he is, number 9, leading the Giants up to the line of scrimmage, which is the 37-yard line. And he hands the ball to Van Williams. He is one of the few Giants who has prior NFL experience. He was a fourth-round choice of Buffalo in 1982, and he returned kicks for the Bills from 83 through 85. And in fact, in one game with Buffalo, he returned caught a touchdown pass against the Jets. Second down and 8. Giants at their own 39-yard line. DeRico and Van Williams are the running backs. That's Van Williams coming in motion. And Robert DeRico, with a penalty marker dropped, is hit at the 40-yard line. After a minimal gain, regular officials They cross the line. It's Gene Barth heading this crew tonight. And it's against the 49ers.
Defense, number 98, offside, 5-yard penalty, still second down.
Jerry Keeble is the man. Korchikia at 10, and here's a look back at one of the plays in his college career. Little play action, and a little roll, and a nice touch. Second down and 3 with Williams in motion, and it's DeRico to the outside. That's Cousineau chasing him, and he's close to a first down. You saw 57 for the 49ers in your picture. Derek Martin made the tackle, and there is Tom Cousineau. A few years back, the #1 pick in the entire National Football League. Went to Canada, came back, was with the 49ers this summer, and then was cut. Williams and DeRico, Lovelady and Bennett are the wide receivers, and Jeff Smith is the tight end. And there is the offensive line. Dugan has some prior NFL experience. He's out of Penn State. First and 10 at the 47-yard line. Korchikia throwing, and it is caught at the 47-yard line, and that's Lovelady wearing Bobby Johnson's old uniform. Johnson wore 88 before he was shipped out to San Diego in preseason and subsequently waived.
Korchikia showing somewhat of a strong arm going to the sideline. Lovelady is really the only Giant wide receiver that figures to play a prominent part tonight. Bill Parcells told us that of all his wideouts, he's the only one that really has a feel for the deep passing game.
From the 45-yard line, out of the eye, it's DeRico. We'll see DeRico and we'll see Williams a lot. The Giants, Frank, were also hopeful of having one Jamie Covington in there to run as well tonight, but he had a hamstring problem.
Well, was he hopeful to be in there, too, Al? He is from Queens High School here in New York, Bayside High School in the Queens, and a former high school star who later went up to Syracuse, had a pretty good performance up there, but he will not go tonight because of a hamstring.
49ers on defense, the 42-yard line. It's Van Williams, who played his college ball at East Tennessee State, taking it to the 40.
Al, I want to clarify and add on to something I said earlier in our open, and when I called the Giants one of the worst teams in the league. And let me pass along a couple stats to you. The 49ers have 16 players on their roster that have NFL experience. The Giants have only 3, but I think even a more telling stat, they only have 12 players, the New York Giants, that played Division I-A college football. These guys are from schools you've never even heard of before.
Second down and 8, and over the middle, complete at the 35-yard line to Lewis Bennett. Tom Cousineau making the tackle.
And even further to what Dan just mentioned, the Giants got a very late start in acquiring personnel, and quite frankly, a lot of it was swept up rather quickly by players who teams who had planned ahead. But they went up to the Connecticut Giants to play in the Continental Football League, and they brought down 12 of them, and they are from some of those schools you mentioned, Dan, you've never heard of.
Third down and 3 at the 35-yard line. Korchikia overthrowing Lovelady.
Korchikia was in the Giants camp this year. We mentioned earlier, starter for Penn for 3 years. Won the Ivy League title back in 1986. A man who has had to sweat it out and put it all together and piece it all together. And he did smile a whole lot when we were out visiting with him. But he had a tough time.
He's trying to maintain the proper attitude. He's trying to figure out what to do here on 4th down, and the Giants are going for it. They're definitely out of field goal range.
The option is a 52-yard field goal attempt. 4th down and 3 at the 35-yard line. Pressure, he escapes it nimbly, then throws, and it is caught at the 24 for a first down. It's a tiny crowd, but they are into it early. Bennett makes the catch.
Korchikia showing some ability as the blitz by the 49ers is on, and throwing off of the right foot. That is as good as a wide receiver can do it. Lewis Bennett, both knees on the ground, makes the catch, Frank.
Sophisticated blitz, too. It came from the secondary. Sullivan on a safety blitz.
First and 10 at the 24-yard line. And Tirico takes it through the middle, loses the football. And still no signal from the officials. And now it's the 49ers who come up with it. So that ends what had been a relatively impressive Giant drive. It's Matt Courtney, who played college ball at Idaho State, as Bill Walsh sends his offense out for the first time.
You're going to earn your Emmy tonight, Al. And congratulations, by the way. There's the fumble. Knee had not hit when the ball came loose, and the 49ers will take it over.
Well, Bob Galliano, one pass in his brief NFL career. 1982, last play of the game. It's freezing cold. He escapes the rush. This was set up as a Hail Mary. He dumps it off. He is 1-for-1 lifetime. And as Galliano said, he couldn't believe it. He's on the bench. It's about 4 below. Marv Levy says, you're in there. Throw a Hail Mary. He's dropping back, and he says, I don't have anything. I'm not warmed up. My arm is weak. I'll dump one off, and he's 1-for-1.
How about the wave going on here? With a lot of holes in it, but enthusiastic.
A broken pattern.
I'd hate to surf that one.
Slow night in New York.
From the 20-yard line, Galliano, and the 49ers run a reverse. This is Carl Monroe, who scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl at Stanford Stadium in January of '85. Monroe, one of many with 49er NFL experience. And let's go back to that January day 2.5 years ago against the Miami Dolphins. And this got the 49ers rolling toward an impressive big win. Montana to Monroe for the touchdown.
What kind of a game are we going to have tonight? We've already showed you more plays from other games than we have this game.
We'll get green stamps later.
2nd and 1 from the 29-yard line, and moving straight ahead and across the 30 for a first down is Tony Cherry, who's 5'7" and 187. He played at Oregon. And there it is. It's Cherry and Mike Barrajon starting as the running backs. Henley, the split end, and then Monroe with that experience, and Wells, the tight end. And the offensive line, Durrett played with the team last year, and that line has had a good deal of experience together because they were all in camp.
And a couple of them, if they expand to a 49-man roster, Bill Watchfield, they might be keeping later on.
Galliano was in camp. He was 3 for 3 in preseason from the 31-yard line. Overthrows the intended receiver, Monroe. 2nd down. And let's take a look at the Giant defense. No Martin, no Burt, no Taylor, none of those guys. Carr, Howard, and Garrett. They're going to play the basic Giant 3-4. Corey Clark is where Taylor would be. And the secondary, they just picked up Donald Brown. He has some limited NFL experience. 2nd and 10 from the 32. Cherry behind some nice blocking. And he's about 2 yards shy of the first down. Stopped by Dan DeRose out of Southern Colorado.
It was Michael Durrett, the right guard, who had pulled out to lead that number 64, and he is one of the players I mentioned a moment ago in that offensive line that might make this team if they go to a 49-man roster.
Third down and 2. Been a fast quarter thus far. 8:35 to go in the period. From the 39-yard line and a first down as Mike Barrajon bulls his way through the middle. He's 6'1" and 232 out of Toledo. 49ers last week practiced at home at their training base in Redwood City, and then what they did is they went down to Los Angeles for 2 days and scrimmaged against the Raiders.
And as Bill Walsh told us this morning, they roughed up on the Raiders pretty good. He was very pleased with his squad. This is a good football team. In no way is it comparable to a regular NFL football team, but if you're going to compare it to the other non-union teams, clearly one of the best.
From the 47-yard line. Short drop. Galliano hits Monroe. marker is thrown after about an 8-yard pickup by Monroe. Gene Barth signaling holding against New York.
Let's take a look at Dan DeRose, the inside linebacker, coming on the blitz. Dan is a professor at the University of Colorado and the only team owner to cross a picket line. Dan owns the Pueblo Crusaders, a semi-pro team out in Colorado.
And he was giving a lecture.
Number 37 defense. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot and a first down.
He called his class together and said, I'm leaving for a couple of weeks. Here's your assignment for 2 weeks.
And as I understand it, he's got to let them know sometime this week whether or not he's going to be back. Imagine he has some interest in that meeting that's taking place in Chicago tonight, whether or not Professor DeRose gets back to work.
First and 10 at the 48-yard line. 7:25 to go in a scoreless first quarter. And the big fullback Barrajon breaks the tackle and is run out of bounds close to a first down. Barrajon, 4-year letterman at Toledo. He was in Tampa Bay's camp and cut this summer.
Barrajon or this guy?
Both of them. First and 10, 49ers at the Giants 37. Going deep for Monroe. He turns the other way and it's off his fingertips. He looked in and had to look out and couldn't hold on. He had gotten behind Donald Brown.
I think we're going to see a lot of Carl Monroe tonight. He, of course, was with the 49ers for several years, worked as a back, coming out of the backfield, a good receiver there. They moved him to flanker last year, cut him this year. Here he had his man beat, and Galliano put it on the wrong side, or that would have been an easy 6.
Looked like he crossed his legs right on the goal line, and that cost him that half a step that I believe would have gotten him to the football. It would have been a touchdown. Carl Monroe tangled his feet a bit at the goal line and came up just a little short.
One of the few Giants with pro experience. Donald Brown covering 2 years for San Diego.
First down, San Francisco at the 37. Second down, rather. Second and 10, and it's Barrajon again, and another flag goes down at the 35-yard line. Our man Steve Hurt looked at all of the numbers. If you're wondering about trends yesterday, 13 games, and there's a clip here against San Francisco. The 13 games featured a lot more fumbles, a lot more sacks generally yesterday, only slightly more penalties, and slightly fewer points than the games played during the first 2 weeks. So that's a capsule summation of
Personal
how
foul,
it broke
number
down.
83 offense, illegal crackback block. 15-yard penalty. Will replay the second down.
Al, all that taken into consideration, I don't think that we could equate that to mean it was nearly as entertaining.
Second down and 10 with under 7 minutes to go in the first quarter. 49ers, you may have read about it. Some of them were thinking about coming across the line, and in fact, there were 2 separate meetings with 2 various groups. And Bill Walsh pretty much saying, in essence, or counseling them, come all together or stay out this week. Second and 25, and Galliano escapes the sack and hits Barrajon. And he takes it down to the 38-yard line.
Further to that, Al, when you talked to Bill Walsh about it, I think 2 things entered into his thinking and talking him out of coming in. And perhaps the first would be the team morale when they all get back together once again. But also, he feels that he has one of the stronger teams of these replacement teams, as Dan mentioned earlier, and felt quite confident as he looked over the Giants, even though he had a tongue-in-cheek complained about their taking 12 players from the Connecticut Giants. I think he felt very confident tonight.
Third down and 14. Scoreless first period, 5:57 to go. Galliano for his man Monroe, but he can't handle it at the 30-yard line as he was chased, hit, and dropped by Warren Thompson out of Oklahoma State. The 49ers meeting and suggesting their players come all or not at all. The Raiders pretty much the same sort of philosophy. Howie Long and Bill Pickel wanted to play, and Al Davis said, nope, I suggest you go back outside. But then there were teams like Indianapolis where Hogaboom plays, and he was a big star yesterday. Jim Asmus to do the punting from the 50, and he's angling it. And the 49ers have a chance to down it deep in Giants territory, and they do at the 3. Chuck Thomas downs it there. 5:34 to go in the first quarter at Giants Stadium. And there is the smiling one, Mike Ditka, who coached his team to a 35-3 rout of the Philadelphia Eagles of sorts yesterday. And the Bears are 3-0. And Mike, I assume you can hear us right now. Give me your assessment of yesterday's game in Philadelphia.
Well, I think we had a few better people. I think the quarterback position is so important. We have a good quarterback in Mike Hohensee, and I think that he was able to handle the things that the Eagles gave us defensively.
I know you're in Chicago. We've got Mike Adamle who'll report on the meeting. Do you have a sense of what to expect tonight from that meeting amongst the players?
I really think it'll be a show of solidarity on their part. I think that the strike will not end, and I don't think they'll be coming in. Especially as teams, collectively. They may be coming in as individuals, but not as teams.
Mike, I guess if you're going to start a season, I know that these are adverse circumstances, but what the heck, if you're going to do it, you might as well get off to a 3-0 start.
Well, Dan, we're very lucky. I mean, really, things have worked out for us. We played good for 2 games. These kids have come in and they've accepted the responsibility of being the Chicago Bears. They played very hard, regardless of the outcome. I'm tremendously impressed with the kids and their attitudes and the way they're working. So it's been a lot, regardless of what people think, I've had a lot of fun.
Dan, how would you feel, Mike, how would you feel about maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 players trickling in for the Bears?
Well, I wouldn't turn them back like Bill did. I agree with what Bill said and did, but I think in our case, I think it's a freedom of choice. If a player wants to come in, we'd be glad to accept him and get on about his career.
All right, Mike, we'll chat with you shortly again. I have a feeling, and we're going to hear from Ed DiBartolo, the owner of the San Francisco 49ers, shortly, who addresses the issue of whether or not he expects some of his key people to be back next week. 1st and 14, there was a penalty on the last play against the Giants, and Robert DeRico is stopped near the goal line. So the Giants are pinned deep with 5:20 to go in the period. Again, the Giants with none of their regulars, and the 49ers with none of the regular people.
And while we're talking to Mike Ditka, none of his regulars either have crossed the picket line. Something to watch for at this point in the game, even though there's still 5 minutes left in the first quarter. How are the coaches going to juggle their players? These guys aren't in shape to play 60 minutes of football, not even from a cardiovascular standpoint or from the physical pounding standpoint.
Van Williams on 2nd and 16 to try to give the Giants a little bit of breathing room.
There was genuine concern, as we all found out when we talked with Bill Parcells and their training staff about the possibility of multiple injuries. They came in late. Dan and I saw one trying to find the stadium carrying a suitcase over his back on Saturday, and he couldn't find the entrance, and he looked like a would-be Rocky Balboa as he was trying to find his way in. We had to help him get in.
I think some great stories that come out of this strike. I mean, enough for a book. Giants had a guy in camp who pretended he was somebody else. 3rd down and 13. And the pass is short with the pressure applied. Lewis Bennett was the intended receiver. The Bears had a guy by the name of Eric Jeffries who almost made the team, and then somebody showed up at the Giants camp and said, I'm Eric Jeffries. And the Giants looked at him and said, you can't be.
He stayed for 2 days and practiced with the team.
And the Giants player didn't want anyone to know that he was really that bad.
Turned out to be somebody else. The real Eric was up in Canada. Derek Martin now back at the 45, and the kicker is Dana Moore.
And I'm not sure that Mr. Moore was looking forward to punting out of his own end zone first time around. This
pretty good snap. And not a bad kick. Pretty good. 50-yard line. And back to the 41-yard line goes Derek Martin. 49ers start from there. Exactly 4 minutes to go in the period after a 45-yard punt. No score. 12,000 or so here yesterday for Jets-Cowboys, and I guess about the same figure tonight as they look on in a game in which the 49ers, on paper, would have the better team in as much as they have more experience, but we're scoreless 11 minutes into the game. 4 minutes to play. First quarter, Niners at the Giants 41, first and 10. And it's Barrajon, who's been pretty impressive thus far, taking it to the 32-yard line. And let's check in with our roving reporter here at Giant Stadium, where there are plenty of good seats available. Lynn Swan.
Thank you, Al. I'm with Dennis Kelly, a loyal Giants fan. And Dennis, why did you come to the game this evening?
I'm a diehard football fan. I love the Giants, and I'll watch football anywhere.
What kind of a game did you expect?
I didn't expect as good as a game, but I did expect good football. And I think these guys are out there, you know, this is their one shot in a lifetime, and they want to play ball. And I think they're going to do a good job with it.
Now, with all the seats available, why are you sitting way up here?
These are the seats I had since I've been in Giant Stadium, and I think they're just as good as any other seat in the house.
And there are plenty of good seats available, as you said, Al, but he refuses to move. That's tradition, that's habit, and that's his own personal history.
Thank you, Swanee. Go find Euchre.
You know, that goes all the way back to Yankee Stadium, and you look around this stadium, people are sitting in their own seats. They could go anywhere they want, but they're at the top of the stadium, they're at the end zone, and it kind of goes back to these are great fans, and they have suffered through some pretty tough times.
Andre Hardy is in the game. He's a new running back, number 47. And this is Cherry, who gets tripped up at the 28-yard line.
You know, we've talked so much about the players meeting tonight at Chicago. The NFL Management Council Executive Committee met today here in New York, and they have authorized the league's competition committee to work out a tie-breaking procedure for a 15-game schedule. They have affirmed that the games up October 4th and tonight's game, those games will count toward the Super Bowl. The season. The returning players who rejoin their clubs by 1 p.m. now, this time it's Wednesday, will be eligible to play in next weekend's games. And they'll be covered under the old bargaining agreement and any new one that might come into play after that.
2nd and 10, and the pass comes out to Hardy, and Hardy is out of bounds at the 22. Looked like Hardy may have just been in motion slightly. I'm wondering, to my knowledge, there hasn't been a directive issued to the officials, but they may be taking a looser look at some plays.
That's going to be tough to tell. I don't know if there was a directive to the officials or anything along those lines, Al. And I would think, though, that it would be human nature.
But he was moving laterally at that point, which you can do.
I would think it'd be human nature if you're officiating a game like this to maybe not look at everything quite as sharply as you would if this was a regular season game played by regular NFL players. You can't expect that kind of caliber of football.
3rd down and 3, and the pass is batted down. Terry Greer was the intended receiver. And so the 49ers will try to put the first points of the night up on the board with a field goal from about the 30-yard line. Jeff Brockhouse is the kicker.
Little reverse angle, and up goes the big hand. Dan DeRose, the professor from Colorado.
Brockhouse, who played his college ball at Missouri, played for 3 USFL teams. It's long enough, and it's good. So Brockhouse in a spot where Ray Worsing would normally take over for San Francisco. Let's put the Niners on the board with 1:54 to go in the first period. 3-0 San Francisco. Giant Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. 3-0. San Francisco, a select group.
About 3 weeks early, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right. It's that time of year. 49ers kickoff. Earl Beacham at the 8-yard line. Good run back. 30 and out of bounds at the 39. And let's go across the Hudson River to our studios in New York and Al Troutwig.
All right, Al. Of course, the owners of the NFL teams, the Management Council today, meeting in New York until about 6:15 at the NFL offices. With me is the owner of the Miami Dolphins, Joe Robbie. Joe, what kinds of things were discussed in that 4-hour meeting?
Well, I think we reviewed the results of the weekend and made some decisions necessary to continue to operate the schedule that's underway. For example, we took up the issue of and turned it over to the competition committee of tiebreakers for a 15-game season.
So plans were made, talks were had about continuing in the situation as it is. Were any talks had about changing the stance of management towards the players?
No, I think management at this moment is satisfied with the progress of the strategy that we've adopted. I think two important things happened this past week which materially strengthen our hand to bring these negotiations back to the table and to a successful conclusion. The first is that nearly 100 players came in by Friday afternoon of last week, which I think is an important element of progress for 1 week's time. And the second, and just as important, if not more important, is the fact that we played a full schedule of football games yesterday and tonight. I think we've proved now that we can play football with the players who are willing to play, and I think that's one of the most important things that we've accomplished.
But that's certainly not the ideal way you'd like to see the NFL season continue. If you were, with the labor experience that you've had, address Jack Donelon and Gene Upshaw prior to their next session, what types of things would you like to say to them to get this thing moving?
Well, I'd tell them to get down to the monetary issues that really affect everybody in professional football, particularly the players. I would say get off free agency and the ideological issues that separate people and keep them from coming to agreement. It's time to figure out how much we can improve the pension system, how much we can increase the roster to provide more jobs on the playing roster for the players, and to address cutting the expenses that for the money that goes to the untested rookies, so that there's more money to deal with for pension and other benefits for the veteran players. Those are the issues that ought to be discussed. But I think the owners at this point have done what they had to do. We didn't want to strike. We offered concessions on all these issues I've just mentioned through Jack Donelon just a few days before the strike started. And we said from the start that free agency, according to what Gene Upshaw told us, is the issue of the strike, and yet the players around the league are all saying that to them that is not the issue. So I think it's time that the players assert themselves, as I hope they do tonight in Chicago, and say, look, get off the free agency bit and get on to the issues that we're interested in, and that's what kind of additional benefits we're going to get when we leave.
I think you can appreciate from the player's standpoint that they would want to come out of this negotiation with something in terms of free agency. Is management flexible towards what they perceive as a new, livable plan that would change free agency as we know it now in the NFL?
Not any kind of unrestricted free agency or total free agency at any particular moment, because then in the next collective bargaining round, they would want to liberalize that until they had total free agency. What I think is a possible adjustment is a change in the compensation rule so that there's more of an opportunity for movement under the compensation rule.
Okay. Al, as you well know, Joe Robbie is a man who may stand to lose more than any of the NFL owners. He has just built a stadium near Miami that puts him almost $100 million in debt. We'll talk to him and have more of the game in a moment on ABC.
You're looking down at Giant Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorf, the Goodyear blimp hovering high overhead as we start the second quarter. San Francisco at the 27-yard line. And it's Barrajon carrying through the middle up to the 34. And while we were talking with Joe Robbie, Al Trautwig back in our studios in New York, the Giants had a drive stymied, punted, and then the 49ers taken over in the second period.
Fourth quarter numbers, a little surprising to me, Dan. Quite frankly, I felt the 49ers would move the ball much more easily than they have. I think you shared that.
Oh, absolutely, although I'm not going to be overly surprised by anything that happens here tonight, but I think the 49ers and their physical superiority is starting to show up front. Let's see how the Giant defensive line is holding the line of scrimmage.
First and 10, Galliano, good protection. Wide open at the 47 is Monroe, and he will be the main man tonight. There's little doubt about that. First down at the New York 47. That's a 19-yard pickup.
Good football since Carl Monroe. I mentioned earlier he's played a lot out of the backfield for the 49ers over the years. A touchdown he scored in Super Bowl 19 came out of the backfield.
And it was a surprise early shot that, of course, led to a rout of the Miami Dolphins in Super Bowl 19. But he can do a lot of things for you. And again, with a 49-man roster, he'll probably stay with this team. Good return man also.
First and 10, and Barragan at the 40-yard line. That's a gain of 7. It'll be second down and 3.
I think we're getting a good look at how things are going. Looks like San Francisco on the line of scrimmage is starting to take control of this football game. Interesting thing to watch here tonight. Start looking at the faces of the players as they walk back to the huddle after running some plays. I think we're going to start seeing some pained expressions on some of these players who, for the first time in a long time, are expanding their lungs to new capacities and also are feeling some soreness in some muscles they haven't felt in years.
Monroe in motion and his movement in the line, and it was Mike Cochran out of Baylor, number 76. And we have access right now, as you get the call from Bart. Tina Turner is the co-player representative for the San Francisco 49ers. He's about to go into the meeting in Chicago, which is about to begin. Keena, you can hear me. This is Al Michaels right now. Your owner, Ed DiBartolo, indicated before the game that he felt several of the key 49ers would be playing next week in Atlanta, whether this strike is on or off. Is that true?
Well, last week, we had a few guys that did want to go in. They decided not to, and it's a good chance those guys would want to go in this week, sure.
How many?
Well, at last count, it was about 6 or 7 players that we had, but they changed their mind. They decided to come back with the team and stick with the team. And I'm thinking that we'll make our decisions as a team.
Keena, this is Dan Deerdorf. You figure that one of the things that's going to happen tonight in this meeting is that Gene Upshaw is going to take a roll call, asking the player reps how many of you feel you can hold your teams out?
Well, I really don't know what exactly we're going to do this evening. I just hope that there's some progress made on our side and also some progress with management. I just hope that this is a meaningful meeting. I really don't know what's on the agenda tonight. That's why I'm kind of anxious to get in there.
Keena, were you given any message verbatim from your players to take to this meeting?
Well, I think that one of the messages that we want to bring from the 49ers, and I'm sure a lot of players are feeling this way, is that we have to see some movement from our union and also from management. It's gotten to a very frustrating situation for everyone involved, and we just want to get something done and get back to doing what we really want to do, and that's play ball.
Keena, I mentioned at the beginning of the telecast tonight that attendance was way down in each of the NFL stadiums, but the television ratings were pretty good. What's the overall player assessment of what happened yesterday?
Well, I think it's no surprise that a lot of fans stayed away from the stadium, but I also think that it's no surprise that there will be some curiosity with it through television. So, I mean, you can draw your own assessments depending on what side you are, but it's not the real football, and that's what we want to get back to do, and hopefully we can get something done in these next few days.
All right, thank you very much, Keena. Tina Turner, the co-player representative, along with Keith Fonhorst of the San Francisco 49ers. And the 49ers have moved down to the 21 of the Giants. They lead by a score of 3-0, 10:47 to go in the half.
And I think we should point out again, there was an executive committee meeting of the Players Association at 7 o'clock Eastern time, and all the reps will convene in about 10 minutes in Chicago.
Meanwhile, Galliano swings one out to Barragan, and he drops it. Mike Barragan, who has seen a lot of action running with the ball tonight, dropping a pass, 2nd and 10.
Looking at Keena Turner and the expression on his face reminds me of back in 1974 when I was a player rep, and you talk about someone that I admire right now. Look at the stress and look at the pressure on the players who are out missing paychecks. They have to go home to families. Multiply that by about 10 when you're the player rep. You feel all the same pressures that a normal player does, but at the same time, you're feeling the heat from 45 guys that are looking directly at you for answers, and sometimes you don't have them. Only Gene Upshaw on the executive committee has those answers.
2nd down and 10. And batted away at the last moment. Greer, the intended receiver, and Donald Brown got a hand on it.
Donald Brown has started a lot of games for San Diego. He's had good experience, and you saw it play right there. Got up and got his little pop that's allowable within that 5 yards, and then looks at the receiver, and when he sees that receiver look back for the ball, there was no deception on the part of Terry Greer, the former CFL star. When he looked back for the ball, that was when Brown looked back. That was a superb play.
Hello. They're sitting in their own seats.
Oh, yep.
Either that or he's got a problem.
Well, I don't know what he's smoking. Maybe that's why he's all by himself.
Lighten up the night.
He's Rutherford.
Penalty on the last play.
So many stories in this track. How about George Martin?
I hope that's not one of them.
George Martin leading the Giants. Now, he probably is in his last year, and there he is holding out for free agency. Certainly not going to benefit George Martin.
3rd down and 10 at the 21-yard line. There's a major league sack. Warren Thompson comes flying through out of Oklahoma State.
And a minor league pickup.
Yeah. And so the 49ers now with an opportunity for about a 45-yard field goal.
Warren Thompson lines up down here at the left linebacker position. It's fun to come on a blitz when nobody blocks you. Tight end releases, goes into the pattern. The back says, well, I think I'll get out here. And Warren Thompson, one of those Division 1A players on the Giants roster, one of only 12. Looked good when nobody blocks him.
You saw that back coming out of the backfield. Should have picked him up and didn't.
High snap, but Galliano gets it down, and the kick is short. John Dietrich of the Oilers yesterday had a 44 and a 43-yard field goal against the Broncos. This one attempted from 45 after an earlier 39-yarder. And here's the high snap and the miss. So, 9:46 remaining in the half. Still 3-0 San Francisco. Some of the things that happened yesterday, Anthony Allen of the Redskins, 255 yards on receptions. That's a team mark. Gary Hogeboom of the Colts, who crossed the picket line through 5 touchdown passes as the Colts routed Buffalo. John Fourcade and Mike Waters, an 82-yard touchdown pass for a New Orleans Saints record. And there's a flip side, which we'll show you in a moment, as the Giants take over at their own 28-yard line, 1st and 10. Pacheco throwing and incomplete on the far side. Now, as far as some of the other performances yesterday, David Norrie was sacked 11 times. Remember Guido Merkins, the versatile one for Bum Phillips at Houston and New Orleans? He resurfaces with the Eagles. He gets sacked 10 times. He fumbles the ball 3 times. He rushes the ball for -8 on 3 carries. He has a punt block.
He went for the whole circuit.
Willie Totten of the Bills fumbled 5 times, tying Jack Kempfegger. Willie Totten, by the way, a quarterback at Mississippi Valley State. His favorite receiver, Jerry Rice. You got it, man.
Van Williams, meanwhile, with a nice little run here. After the 44, I'll tell you one thing, though, about Merkins. After you looked at his stats yesterday, he's still very versatile.
Van Williams filling in for what would be a
bad boy.
Joe Morris. How do we could maybe break this down into cost per yards as against Van Williams against Joe Morris? To get into some rather fancy mathematics.
That much time left first half. 3-0 49ers from the 44-yard line. And up the middle, Earl Beacham, number 26, takes it to the 45-yard line and close to a first down. He's at a Bucknell, the Brooklyn native, at 5'8" and 180. Beacham.
The Niners are trying to say there was a fumble on the play, but the ball came down after contact with the field, so the Giants retain possession, and they get inside San Francisco territory as Mr. Belichick tries to get his defensive charges ready.
On Saturday, as they come out for the measurement, we were out for the practice, and they were going through a drill I've never seen before, and that is giving the situation to the teams on the sidelines, saying 3rd down and 3, and trying to get the proper units to go on the field at 3rd and 3, 3rd and long, 3rd and short. I've never seen that in football, but they've come from all parts of the world and all different types of orientation in football, and it was like a jailbreak.
From the 46, after a first down, going deep, Kochikia, and he makes the catch despite the interference. Bennett with a fabulous catch. Derek Martin was all over him. And that baby will be played on his home VCR about 1,000 times.
Look at him go for the football. Oh, a tug of war.
I want that. You know, that ball came right off Martin's back, and Martin kind of held it up for him. Let's take a look at it again. A full stride. Kochika just unleashed everything he had, and Martin is right there with Bennett. Ball is right off the back of Martin. Stays in the air. He one-hands it right into the chest, and a touchdown for the Giants. And
well, it would have been their ball in the 1 yard anyway because Martin was flagged for interference on the play.
That ball just hung on Derek Martin's back. Bennett scooped it up.
So the Giants take the lead. Spagnola with the extra point. Parcells, half kidding, said his team could get beat 75-0. Meanwhile, they're leading 7-3.
I'll tell you, he's heading for Coach of the Year honors right here. Unbelievable. Again, Kochika, every freckle he had behind that one, and it hangs right on Derek Martin's back for just long enough for Bennett to pull it in. Touchdown, Giants.
Lou Baby, well of a play. 46 yards.
I bet he never made one like that at Florida A&M.
I wonder if the Giants will put that in their highlight film this year.
Interesting point. Monroe takes the kick back to the 24-yard line.
Why not? It's going to count at the end. Yep, and they're not going to back away from that.
Union, non-union, I don't care who's playing the game of football. That's one of the best catches you are ever going to see. Let's look at the tail end of that again. Clearly interference, but talk about concentrating on the football.
You know,
Lewis Bennett, that's sweet.
It looks so much more difficult at full speed. You see, at full speed, it happens so quickly. Just concentration.
They'll at least keep it for the outtake reel. I know that. Bennett scores. Meanwhile, we had a penalty on the kickoff. And so it's Spagnola to kick again. This time from the 30, offside. I would guess there's about 15,000 here, and they're making some noise because when we came out tonight, I was beginning to think maybe it was time to cue up one of those crowd tapes. But what you're hearing is the real stuff. 7-3 Giants. At the 15-yard line, Carl Monroe takes it to the 36, and it's a first down for the 49ers at that point, or as some have dubbed them this week, the Phony Niners, taking on the Lilliputians. There were some great nicknames, the Masqueraders.
Yeah, these players that have come in off the streets, former players, they have taken some kind of abuse. They've been shoved around, they've been spit on. It has been tough sledding, and the ones that hang around when this is all over, it's going to be even tougher for a little while. But Dan and I were talking earlier, along with Al, that does fade away. But there will be bitterness for a long time.
First down from the 36-yard line. Galliano, and the catch is made out at the 48-yard line by Tony Gladney out of Nevada, Vegas. And you stopped by Don Brown. If you're wondering, these guys are making about $4,000 a game, and the guys on strike are making close to $15,000 a game. Minimum salary in the NFL is $50,000.
Pretty good argument economically for continuing this, isn't there?
Just so many different ways to look at this past weekend. Who's the winner, who's the loser? I know that both management and the players are looking at various aspects of yesterday and today and saying, we were a success. I don't know if either side was.
First down from the 49-yard line. And it's now second down. There are still a lot of questions to be answered, as there were after the previous strikes in baseball and football in years past, about certain deals that were made, about things that happened that didn't appear to be happening at that time, subsequently came out. And I'm sure it'll be the same situation here in terms of the little things that went on behind closed doors, the management-player meetings, for instance, in the past couple of weeks.
As Dan well remembers, the role played by Dan Rooney last time around in 1982, a conciliatory role.
Mike Barrajon to the 50-yard line. Well, Ed DiBartolo is the owner of the San Francisco 49ers. He is here tonight, and I spoke with him before the game. To your knowledge, will any of the players out on strike in the National Football League be paid?
No. They're, when they come back, I'm sure that there's going to be provisions made at that time. Every club's going to do, with their own situation. They're going to face their own situation. But nobody on the 49ers has been paid. And when they miss the games, obviously they've missed the games. And when they miss games, they miss paychecks.
To your knowledge, though, are there any players in this league who have such contracts as to stipulate that they will be paid under these circumstances?
No, none.
And I asked that question because, if you'll recall, the baseball strike in '81, there were certain players that had contracts that allowed them to be paid during the strike.
The surprising Giants forcing the 49ers to punt. Warren Thompson with the sack of Galliano, and the Giants making me look bad.
Asmus kicks from the 22-yard line. Edwin Lovelady is caressed at the 25-yard line. 6:10 to go. First half. Giants on top by 4.
Caressed?
Giants on top 7-3. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, and Dan Dierdorf at Giants Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey, about 8 miles from the middle of Manhattan. And it's 7-3 New York, with the Giants taking over their own 25-yard line. Shortly, we'll be checking in with Gary Hogeboom, who had a big day yesterday as his Indianapolis Colts routed the Buffalo Bills 47-6. Meanwhile, Kochikia to Earl Beecham for a gain of about 2. Indianapolis, one of the better prepared teams, apparently, for the strike. Hogeboom crossing the picket line, and then yesterday, 5 touchdown passes. Walter Murray on the receiving end of a couple. And Indianapolis with an easy victory over the depleted Buffalo Bills. 2nd down and 8 here live again, and it's Van Williams carrying out to the 38-yard line and a first down. Gary Hogeboom is in Zionsville, Indiana tonight. That is just outside of Indianapolis. Gary, give us a sense of what it was like to play with a whole bunch of guys you never played with before.
Well, it was very interesting. I was real proud of the guys that played. They came in 8 days and prepared very well for the game, and there was very few mental errors out on the field Sunday, and everybody had a good time.
We can't hear you, Gary, and I assume that it didn't go out over the net. From the 42-yard line, it's Kochikia to Jeff Smith at the 48-yard line, and that's a first down. Courtney and Sullivan in on the tackle.
A fine pass thrown in there by Kochikia. Hit Smith right in the gap, just like the real grown-ups do.
We understand you were able to hear at home what Gary Hogeboom said. We couldn't. I'm going to ask Gary another question, and you'll be able to hear the answer, which isn't being fed to us at the moment. From the 49-yard line, a little dipsy-do here, and it's Lovelady to the 45-yard line, stopped by Sullivan. Gary, what do you think's going to happen, and what kind of a relationship will you now have with the rest of the Indianapolis Colts after you cross the line and the guys then eventually get back together?
Well, I really can't answer exactly what's going to happen when they come back. They all knew the situation I was in before the strike and knew what I was going to do. I think, I respect them for their decision, what they're doing, and I hope they respect me for what I'm doing.
All right, Gary. Again, you at home were able to hear what he said. And I think Dan and Frank, that's going to be one of the key situations that will develop when this strike does come to a conclusion.
I think the first time that Gary Hogeboom throws a couple of touchdown passes for the regular Colts when they're back in and playing regular season football as a group, things are going to be forgotten. I think things are said in the heat of the moment in passion that I don't want to say are quickly forgotten, because that makes it cheap, and there's nothing cheap about a strike breaker or someone who stays out on strike. But I think time does heal things pretty well. And I was there before. Frank, you've seen it. Teammates have had fights. Teammates have had arguments. Teammates have said pretty rotten things to one another that a week later all but forgot.
It's kind of the makeup of the beast, if you will, the athlete. They tend to let it all out. They tend to vent their emotions very quickly, get it over with, and that's the kind of a person that makes up a football player. But I think Dan is going to be very, very bitter this time around because, first of all, the numbers are colossal. Lawrence Taylor has now gone for $112,000 in 2 weeks. That's quite a sacrifice that he's made, and he's talking about he may come back next week. The economic pressures, maybe the players will forgive that, maybe they won't.
And the 49ers have just recovered to take over.
But it will be bitter for some time.
I tend to agree with you, Frank. I really do.
Well, you know, we talk about the amount of money that's lost by players, and you say $100,000, and you're absolutely right. But it's still just a percentage of what he earns. And when players were on strike in 1982, hey, 5 game checks is 5 game checks, regardless of whether you make $500,000 or whether you make $50,000. It's still the same percentage of your income that's been lost. And sometimes I think the guy who misses 5 game checks is making 50 is feeling it a lot more than Lawrence Taylor in his 2 game checks.
That perhaps is true. The numbers are just so colossal. The average salary now is $90,000 more than it was in 1982. And I guess one of the big pressures now that the players are feeling, they're paid for 16 games. They have dumped a couple of them, and that is a big percentage of their entire year. And for many of the players, I mentioned George Martin a while ago, this could be his last year. He's not going to get that back.
After Varajan picks up a first down, he gets the ball back and takes it down to the New York 46 as we come down to the 2-minute warning here, approaching 7-3 New York first half.
Al, I know we're doing a lot of other things and not paying a whole lot of attention to the game tonight, but Mike Varajan is really playing very well tonight. He's got a couple of receptions. He's run the ball extremely well from the University of Toledo, and I don't know. This guy's playing pretty good football tonight.
9 rushes for 57 yards. It's been a rapid first half. 2 minutes to go. The Giants on top, 7-3. 2 minutes to go in the first half at Giants Stadium, where the New York Giants lead the San Francisco 49ers by a score of 7-3. And the 49ers have the ball at the New York 46-yard line. It is 2nd down and 6. Bill Rogers was the man in motion, and the pass is caught and taken inside the 30 by Tony Gladney. And now the 49ers with their 2-minute drill, and they have all of their timeouts remaining. We talked about Galliano only having that one pass attempt for Kansas City. He played very well, however, in the USFL back in 1985 for the Denver Gold, led them to the playoffs. So he's been on the football field. He's moved the ball around. He's worked in 2-minute drills, and he's done it very well. 1st and 10 from the 27. He dumps it off, and it's caught by Del Rogers. He's inside the 20, the 10, and Rogers to the 3-yard line. Del Rogers, drafted by Green Bay in 82. First 1,000-yard rusher in Utah history. 49ers take a timeout.
What a well-executed screen pass. Watch the interior line come out and block. Make their blocks in the middle. He's got 2 of his linemen out front. Rogers makes the cut. Reach gets a block. Back to the inside behind his tight end. And Del Rogers setting up his blockers well, moving back to the middle of the field against the grain, and has San Francisco in scoring position.
Timely call, too, Dan. That, of course, comes from the sidelines, Bill Walsh. Giants thinking he's going to put it in the air. They've got a full-blown pass rush. You come with the screen, and you get the ball down inside the 5-yard line. Beautiful day, beautiful fall day here in New York. What's that moon full tonight?
Absolutely. It's another one of those possum hunting moons, isn't it? As we used to say in Brooklyn.
We should call the dogs.
1st and goal at the 3. Double tight end set up. And Del Rogers takes it to the 1.5. Clock running down to 109 now to play in the first half. Bill Parcells really singing the blues and maybe playing a little possum. He thought his team, or at least he indicated publicly, his team was going to get blown out.
Last time I believe anything he ever tells me.
Yeah. Second and goal. Rodgers diving in. Touchdown.
That was the kind of drive that I think we anticipated early in the game. It was on the ground. It was in the air. It had strategy to it with the screen and the pass situation. And it also had good execution.
So the 49ers are back up on top.
How often have you seen teams, though, try this against the New York Giants, and when the back goes into the air like Rodgers does from the 4-yard line, he's met at about the 2 in midair by Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson. That time, no Giant linebackers were there. Into the end zone. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Jeff Brockhouse kicking. Galliano does the holding. Good snap, good placement. And the kick angled slightly, but good. With 50 seconds to go in the half, it's 10-7 49ers.
What you're saying, Dan, he probably could not have carried this. He gets airborne at about the 4-yard line, and had it not been a Harry Carson or somebody from the inside, it could have certainly been one of the backs who would have lofted in there to meet him.
It was Verizon that time at the fullback position blocking for Rodgers, and he got in there and picked off one of the New York Giants rather coming in and made that play possible. But you're right. Where were the Giant linebackers on that play? I've got tickets for the ball game tomorrow night in St. Louis with the San Francisco Giants, and I'm having a tough time getting them off my mind tonight.
What did you tell me they've drawn in St. Louis?
They went over $3 million. The third team to go over the $3 million mark. The Mets did it just about the week before for the first time, and in St. Louis they go over the $3 million mark with the baseball Cardinals, and a pretty extraordinary achievement when you consider that metropolitan St. Louis is only about 2 million people.
Yeah, and they lost a couple of dates to rainouts as well. They could have done about 3-2.
You and Jimmy laid in a lot of stakes?
Yeah. We're ready.
From the 12-yard line. Coming back is Rico, and he brings it to the 37-yard line. The Giants have all of their timeouts remaining, 45 seconds. Coming up at halftime, we'll have the strike update. Mike Adamle is in Chicago. We'll check in there. And a look at Jay Brophy, one of those who played yesterday. Interesting feature piece coming your way at halftime. The crowd here in the stadium, it'll be a regular halftime show for them. I noticed there was a band that was rehearsing beforehand. I guess, what are they going to play? Strike Up the Band? Right. From the 37-yard line, penalty marker. Kochikia, incomplete.
Al, you had fun in Detroit yesterday, didn't you?
Great game. Frank Tanana pitching the Tigers to the American League Eastern Division Championship. They'll play the Twins. It's an illegal motion against the Giants. And I think Sparky Anderson goes to the playoffs for the 7th time in his career, but this may be the most satisfying for him.
Illegal motion, 76 offense, penalty refused, second down.
At one point early in the year, 11 back or something, just incredible performance.
They were 11-19, and the consensus pick would have had the Tigers 4th, 5th, and 6th. Shotgun, and he wasn't ready for it. Kochikia will just have to cover it up at the 18.
I wonder where he was looking.
I hit a drive like that last week on number 12.
Did you see him point to himself as my fault? What he was doing, he was looking outside to a receiver, and it just came right through, right between his legs.
A worm burner.
Looking out to the right, trying to change it off. Reinhardt was the center. He did what he was supposed to do, and Kochikia was trying to get a message to one of his wide receivers and didn't even see the ball.
And a timeout is taken here with 32 seconds. Bill Parcells, and again, you got to keep in mind that these games count. So his team 0-2. They lost to the Bears on opening night, and then the real Giants were beaten by Dallas week 2. We're down to a 15-game season, Frank, so we'll be a fifth of the way through the year. 20% gone after tonight.
Bill Walsh, boy, did he speak very candidly, not only with you, but with us at the production meeting today. Came right out, put it all on the line. Didn't want to talk about tonight's game. He wanted to talk about the issues. Yep.
3rd and 29, and the Giants very conservatively keep it on the ground, and it's going to be 4th down and long, and the 49ers alertly take a timeout, call it on defense, because they're going to get the ball back. We have Gary Hogeboom still standing by outside of Indianapolis, and Al Troutwig has access to Gary, whom we were having difficulty hearing. So why don't you pick it up, Al?
All right, Al. Gary, what I'm curious of as we watched clips of your great performance yesterday were you beating bad coverage, or were you just having a great day against some players who were talented in the secondary?
Well, I would hopefully think, I had a good day, and my receivers had a good day, and the offensive line gave me a good time. So, obviously, the talent on our side of the line was better than the talent on the opposite side of the line. But, we were out there playing a football game and doing the best we could.
Gary, one of the reasons you're so happy to be in Indianapolis is because you had that strange quarterback situation in Dallas. If you were in a position, as we have a touchdown at Giants Stadium, Gary, let's go find out what happened, and I'll get back to you in a minute. Al Michaels?
All right, Al.
All right, now what happened is Mike Wells came in and winds up with the touchdown on the block by Matt Courtney. And so the Giants, 4th and long, the Niners had taken a timeout on defense, and they cash in on a block punt. And interestingly, the 49ers' real team has had major problems with their special teams play over the last couple of years. But these guys are something else.
I know it's nothing personal against the Giants, Dan, but you did take a little sigh of relief over here, didn't you?
Oh, no, right. Courtney, though, good snap. Just no one blocked from the punter's right side, and Mike Wells, the starting tight end, takes it on the one hop, goes right into the end zone, and we knew that in this weekend of non-union football, the biggest mistakes are going to be made in the kicking game. It's really a throwaway for some coaches, but in reality in the National Football League, that's how more games are won or lost. Mistakes in the kicking game.
And what you talked about early on, Dan, is starting to manifest itself here now, the domination of the 49ers and their much more experienced team that has performed through the ranks of this team. They have collectively a lot of years in the NFL, while the Giants have few, if any.
Well, and what's one of the toughest things to do as a player, to learn to do, and that's to overcome some adversity. And here the Giants now make the big mistake right before halftime. They're going to go in. Some teams lose concentration. Young players lose concentration at halftime. Giants are going to have to work hard to get back in this game early in the third quarter.
17-7 is the score with 22 seconds now remaining in the first half. And back to receive for the Giants. Robert DeRico on the near side. Picks up the grounder. Drops the ball again. And it's all they can do to hold on, maintain possession at the 18-yard line with 18 seconds.
You know, Frank, you mentioned about me breathing a sigh of relief. I actually would be fascinated if the Giants would make this game close and even win it. To see these kids that didn't even play Division I college, only 12 of them did, to see them make a game out of this with a much more experienced 49ers squad on Monday night. What an experience for them.
Oh, it would. And the total frustration, we read it in the face of Bill Parcells when he was working with them this weekend, going through drills that we had never even dreamed that they even had, just to get them the right 11 players on the field.
Well, they're going to run the clock out, and that'll do it. The Giants better keep it close, Dan, because it's not like we're doing Sunday football. There's no other game to switch to. This is it.
This is it.
It's halftime at Giants Stadium with the Niners, a late rush on top by a score of 17-7. We'll be right back.
Our halftime is being brought to you by Taco Bell. Say hello to the great taste of steak fajitas. Hello, Taco Bell. And the 49ers, exerting their muscle here in the second quarter, have taken a 17-7 lead over the New York Giants. Well, the scab or replacement players have been called many things by many different people. But for some of them, Sunday has been an opportunity, a reborn opportunity. For many of the players who have been injured, it's another chance. We're going to take a close-up look at one such player who's been given another chance. Jake Brophy joined the Miami Dolphins in 1984, fresh from helping lead the Miami Hurricanes to the national championship. A second-round draft pick at the Dolphins, he started at inside linebacker over the 84 and 85 seasons. But in 1986, he had difficulty making the Dolphins roster, and after the season's fourth game, he was cut. In his hometown of Akron, Ohio, he went to work at an asbestos removal company. He failed to make the New York Jets this summer and again returned to Akron. When the strike was called, Jay rejoined the Jets. But crossing the picket line took some long, hard deliberation.
It was a real tough decision for me because I knew about it right when I was released by the Jets. But I went home and I had to go back to work. I weighed the differences and I thought about it. And I had to look out for what was best for me at that time, my kids. And the asbestos removal didn't compare to what NFL football would. My daughter's going to be 8 years old. My son's going to be 4 years old, and he's going in preschool, and she's in second grade, and it takes money. And I want the best for them. I want the best for their future and my own. And it may be selfish, but I think everybody's got to look out for themselves.
After a brief workout Saturday afternoon before Sunday's game against the Dallas Cowboys, Jay and roommate George Radichowski checked into the team hotel. Playing for the replacement Jets had been an adjustment for Jay.
Coming out of college from a national championship to a Super Bowl and then to this was tough. And as it went on, it's gotten better. I think it's become more of a secondary thing now. I'm more interested in beating the Dallas Cowboys than I am thinking about the strike.
Lights were out in room 621 at 11 p.m. Saturday night. And at 9 in the morning, it was rise and shine. There was a team breakfast to attend.
Opportunity only knocks once in a while. And this is definitely an opportunity for me to come back. And if the rosters are extended to 49, that usually leaves another inside linebacker spot open. And I think it would be better in my interest if I was active now during the strike instead of being not active.
The Jets arrived at the Meadowlands early, 3 hours before their 4 o'clock kickoff, and Jay was all business.
I feel great. I'm ready to go. It's game pace now. I don't feel like talking too much, but it's time to go.
Jay was a Jets team captain and a starter at right inside linebacker. He wound up with 5 solo tackles, a sack, and he broke up a pass. He also knew what he would have been doing had he not been playing football.
I'd still be doing asbestos work and removing asbestos, which will pay a little bit of money, but it's not going to pay the kind of money that I can make now, and it's not going to be the thing I want to do now. I want to play professional football.
The Jets trailed all afternoon. Jay banged up his left arm, making this fourth quarter tackle. But he returned to play, even though the Cowboys were assured of victory. Jay was disappointed with the loss. And as for his plans?
Wake up tomorrow, start a new day of professional football. And if it's there, fine. And if it's not, you move on to the next thing. Hopefully let's try to stay in football somewhere. And if not, make a decision then. I'm living day to day. I can remember being in 6th grade and school and telling my father then. And I always told him I was going to be a pro football player or pro something, baseball, basketball. And I believed in it all my life. And it was a dream that came true. And I'm not ready to stop dreaming it yet. I want it to keep going. And this is the way to do it.
We're back once again at Giants Stadium. The San Francisco 49ers over the Giants at halftime, 17-7. And, of course, everyone, I'm quite sure, is aware that the players have gathered, the player representatives have gathered in Chicago. They had an executive meeting at 7 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. They went into session with all the representatives at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. They are still in that session. And right now, we are going live to Mike Adelman. He is out in Chicago. Mike?
Well, Frank, they have been in that session for about a half an hour right now, and it's more than just the 28 player representatives of the National Football League teams. I know quite a few of the members of the Chicago Bears are here to take in what is being said behind closed doors. Walter Payton's here, Doug Flutie, Keith Van Horn, just to name a few. Some other members of other teams around the league are also here to listen to those talks. They weren't quite sure about what they were going to discuss tonight, but I do know this. One of those issues they are debating is the issue of free agency, and this is where the players are still divided right now. Some teams don't want to give in on that issue. They feel if they give in on that issue, it will have a snowball effect and that the owners won't bargain on any of the other issues that they have on the table. There are other teams, for instance, like the Los Angeles Rams, who don't think free agency is that big of an issue, and they want to give it up as long as there's some kind of deals. The pot is sweetened as far as pension and severance pay is concerned. Curiously, one of the other things that the union is talking about is whether or not they will make the demand that management not count those games that were played yesterday and tonight, which I thought kind of interesting. Marvin Powell was the man who said that. He said there's no way that we should have those games count. I think they are a travesty. I think they are a disgrace to the integrity of the National Football League. That's one thing I don't think that they'll get past the owners. As I mentioned, the meeting has been going on for about a half an hour right now. Who knows? It could last as long as until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time, and we'll keep you posted. Right now, let's go back to you, Frank.
Well, Mike, I'd like to ask you a question. You've talked to some of the members of that executive committee, I'm sure, when they came out of that meeting. What was the feeling? Could you read anything? Did you get words from them, or could you read anything from their attitudes?
One of the things that they want is to come up with some kind of consensus. You've heard the Bears mention time and time again, especially Mike Singletary, that whatever we do, we want to do it together. If we're going to come back into camp without an agreement or come back and play football without an agreement, let's do it together. That's why this meeting was held. Each player representative brought with him the concerns of their individual teammates. And hopefully tonight they'll be settled, and all 1,580 players who make up the National League Players Association, they'll have some common ground, whether it's to give up the issue of free agency and bargain on some of the other things, or in point of fact, stick with it.
Do you get a sense at all, Mike, of how the players will react if, let's say, several of the 49ers, Montana, Craig, Clark, the key guys, do come back this week, as Ed DiBartolo indicated to us before the game?
I think the only thing that would bring teams back in is if other whole teams go in. I don't think individual players. The thing that they keep stressing over and over again is that the media makes too much of the players who have crossed the picket lines and gone back in. What they ought to tell us and what they ought to tell the American public is that look how many guys are still solid. Look how many guys are still out. That's what they think should be driven home.
Earlier, Mike, I don't know whether you heard it or not, we talked to Mike Ditka. He thought that maybe the players would come out of this meeting even much more solid than they went in. I heard that also earlier this evening from Wellington Mara. He felt that there maybe have been brought together even closer by what's transpired over this past weekend.
I think you're right. I think a lot of people have underestimated union solidarity. I was talking to Mike Ken, one of the members of the Executive Council, of course, the all-pro tackle, offensive tackle for the Atlanta Falcons. I asked him, what about the Atlanta Falcons? How do they feel? Would they give up the issue of free agency? He said no way. They feel that strongly about it.
Who has Upshaw's ear right now? Everybody listens to certain people. Who are the key guys that Upshaw is listening to tonight, in your opinion?
Well, I think the key guys are the Chicago Bears. I think Mike Singletary and Dave Duerson and Walter Payton. You know, Walter Payton is not enjoying the strike at all. He's losing a great deal of money. I don't think that he's too sure about the free agency business. I know that he has been in contact with Jim Finks of the New Orleans Saints right now. They've had an active dialogue. He would like to do everything in his power to influence the settlement of the strike. So I think the people, really the key people, are the members of, I think, probably the people on the Raiders and, of course, the Bears.
Mike, I'm sure we'll be coming back to you a little later on. The meeting's still in session of all the player reps in Chicago. Mike Adamle will be standing by there live throughout the rest of the game. But right now, we're going to our New York studios on Al Trotwick.
All right, Frank, I am watching this game tonight with Joe Robbie, owner of the Dolphins, and we'll be back with him later. He has led me to believe that the owners are as adamant as keeping these games that were played yesterday and tonight in the schedule and in the standings as they are about free agency. We'll have more with Joe in a moment. Still standing by, Gary Hogeboom, who had 5 touchdown passes yesterday. Gary, as each day goes by, do you feel a little bit easier about the decision you made or a little bit more difficult?
Well, I really not trying to think about it that much because I'm preparing each week for a new game. Obviously, I've stayed in contact with a lot of players on the Colts, and I know it's hard, and I know it's hard on them because they're indecisive on what they're going to do. But, you know, I think, again, I made my decision early, and I'm sticking with it. It's what's best for me, and it's what's best for my family in the long run.
All right, Gary, thank you very much. Our conversation tonight's gone a little bit the way that the negotiations have, on again and off again. So far, Monday Night Football on this Monday is going just the way Dan Deerdorf said it would.
Once again at halftime, the 49ers over the Giants 17-7. Our halftime has been brought to you by Taco Bell. Say hello to the great taste of steak fajitas. Hello, Taco Bell. And we'll return for our second half kickoff after a word about an upcoming show on ABC and a break for your local news. Stay with us.
This is Eyewitness News, the halftime report with Ernie Anastas and Corey McFerrin. evening. Here's what's happening. Player representatives from all over the NFL teams are meeting right now in Chicago. Corey McFerrin here now with the very latest. Corey?
Okay, Ern, well, the current version of the Giants and the 49ers do battle out at the Meadowlands. We still await word from Chicago. Major strategy session in progress as we speak. Continued speculation that perhaps the union may drop its free agency demands. Now, tonight before the ball game, just outside the stadium, a strong show of union support for the striking players. More than 30 Jets and Giants, including Wesley Walker here, turn out to picket and mix with their supporters. Phil McConkey and Gary Reasons among the Giants in this group, pleading with the fans not to support what they call scab football. Tonight's player rep meeting in Chicago may last till the wee hours. Nobody knows for sure. We will have a live report from Chicago following the ball game. All that a little bit later on. Ern.
Thank you, Corey. Also ahead tonight on Eyewitness News, a family tragedy in the Bronx. An 18-year-old has surrendered to police for the alleged murder of his mother and 16-year-old brother. Police say that he killed him during an argument over drug money. A judge has decided on the punishment of Cheryl Pearson. The 18-year-old Long Island woman admitted hiring a classmate to kill her father to end years of sexual and physical abuse. And the appointment of Judge Robert Bork to the U.S. Supreme Court has received more blows. 3 key senators say that they will vote against him. And in the Rose Garden, President Reagan lashes out. We'll have details on that. Also on Eyewitness News, right after the game, what could be one of the hottest new toys for Christmas. It interacts with your TV and it works.
Second half about to get underway. The 49ers over the Giants. This ABC Sports exclusive is brought to you by the Travelers. You're better off under the umbrella. And by Honda, who invites you to experience the Accord LX, 4-door sedan at your local Honda dealer.
So here we go as we start the second half. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, and Dan Deerdorf at Giant Stadium. Before a crowd of about 15,000 or so. 17-7. 49ers on top as they come in with a mark of 1-1, and the Giants are 0-2. Vignola kicks off. Dropped by Monroe, and a scramble for the football at the 18-yard line, and Monroe gets it back for the 49ers. And let's take a look at the numbers through the first 30 minutes.
49ers really started to exert themselves midway through the second quarter. They are a team, again, of much more experience, much more combined experience and years in the NFL, and it started to show in the middle of the second quarter.
The 2 turnovers against the Giants, the blocked punt for the touchdown. Interestingly enough, the 6th blocked punt of this weekend. The NFL normally averages only 2 per weekend, and here comes the bone.
Now watch this, Mark Stevens, and we've got the wishbone. Bill Walsh said that he would pull off the wishbone tonight, the offense, and sure enough here in the second half. And when's the last time you've seen that in the NFL? Walsh last coached the wishbone when he was a high school coach back in '60, and there's Parcells even enjoying it.
He knew he would do something. He just didn't know what it was going to be. This is fun. Here it is again, just down the line, look for that man, then play the option off. He goes upfield, I'll take it upfield. And here comes Mark Stevens, who, by the way, as a senior at Utah, rushed for over 450 yards, so he can do this little trick.
They're going to stay in it. Barry Switzer, eat your heart out.
Emery Ballard, Darrell Royal from the 25-yard line. And this is Mike Barrajon. Wow, how weird does it look in an NFL game to see the wishbone?
Hey, that was a great shot of Bill Parcells laughing on the sideline.
He last did that in 1960. Here is the reaction.
He's looking right across at Parcells. The devil made me do it.
Yep. Fremont, Washington Junior High School in San Francisco, the East Bay area. That's the last time in 1960, I guess it was, that Bill Walsh ran the wishbone.
Yeah, I'm sure Parcells has spent a lot of time this week thinking about defending the wishbone. Third down and 1. And there's a classic sort of wishbone play that may have netted a first down. Keeping close to the 29-yard line.
Yeah, he just did get there. And he paid for it in the inside.
Oh, he gets a good spot. That spot may give him the first down.
Well, leave it to Walsh, the innovator. Bill Parcells looking on as his defense tries to stop this wishbone attack.
little trick up his sleeve that may come up a little later on. Maybe I better not talk about that. Who's wired into it.
Oh, you got the inside info here, huh?
We kept the wishbone secret.
It's something you both know about. I just have to think about it.
We did a pretty good job keeping the wishbone a secret.
Where was our journalistic integrity? We should have spit that out in the first quarter. No.
Bulletin. Yep, first down. Bill Walsh.
He looked across that table at us today when he talked about the wishbone and realized my heritage. Looked me right in the eyes and said, you're not going to tell them, are you?
Safe to say the wishbone will be retired when Joe Montana's quarterbacking the team.
You get the feeling, don't you? At the 29-yard line, 1st and 10 for the 49ers, who lead in the opening minutes of the third quarter by 10. And it's Farragon who will operate out of any formation, 31-yard line. Funny, I once researched the origin of the wishbone. A lot of people thought that Darrell Royal invented it. He used it at Texas, but then Emery Ballard had also used it at Texas A&M. You can trace it back to a high school coach in Alice, Texas, by the name of Ox Emerson.
Only you would research the wishbone.
With a little help from Lee Groscup a few years ago. We went back and looked it up.
I did not doubt you would know the origin of it either.
Please correct the scoreboard. It is 2nd down. Thank you.
Mark Stevens, the quarterback I mentioned, he rushed for over 450 yards as a senior at Utah. Also threw for 11 touchdowns that year.
Keep this up, Al. Replacement announcers maybe next. Ox may be doing Monday Night Football.
2nd down and 9 at the 31. And it's Tony Cherry out to the 36-yard line.
I'll tell you what the wishbone will do. He'll get us out of here early. Oh, I love it. Huge offensive line. It makes sense to put it in. He's got very proud of that offensive line is Bill Walsh.
Big. Why does it make sense to put it in? You're not going to run it in the regular season. I mean, I'm glad they did it.
Games count, Dan. They're not going to back off that. These games are going to count.
Oh, they have no choice. Once they say they're going to do it, you're right. There's no backing off of it now.
3rd down and 3. Make it 3rd and close to the 4. And on a little whirly bird action. It's out past the 50 to the 48-yard line.
The old whirly bird. It's fun to watch. It is.
You know who's having a ball with this is Bill Walsh. He loves to teach to begin with. There's the little fake. Started down the line. Nothing happening out there. You can see that both the outside men coming upfield led by Reggie Carr, and he breaks it back across the middle just like you draw it up.
You think Charlie Connolly or Norm Van Brockman could have run the whirly bird?
I remember Vince Lombardi put it in for Charlie Connolly. Charlie's about 38. He never would call it.
48-yard line. Stevens down the line. Drop. Loss of 1.
You know why this would never happen for real? I don't think it will in a way, Dan. About the 3rd time that quarterback came down the line, they would just disregard whatever gain he might make. They'd put up the biggest, toughest, meanest dude they had, and they'd just separate the helmet from the body.
I wouldn't want to run it in the NFL if I was a quarterback. I wouldn't want to run it in college, in high school, or anywhere if I was the quarterback. It takes a special kind of athlete to do it. You're right. It's an impractical offense for the NFL.
2nd and 10. 49-yard line. Fake give, fake pitch, keep the ball, no gain. Warren Thompson out of Oklahoma State. In on the tackle.
He's one of the players that has looked very quick tonight. No professional experience. 240. The same linebacker size we see so much of today. 6'3", 240.
Well, there's a guy who's played against a lot of wishbone offenses.
Galliano's back in.
No wishbone now. Split backs. Passing situation. 3rd and 10. And he swings it out to Varajan, who's been a very busy man, and he is tackled at the 45 by Donald Brown, who comes up from the secondary. 9.5 minutes to go in the period.
A little burst of excitement there with the old wishbone.
Yeah. Well, let's see what Parcells has up his sleeve. when the Giants get it back. Jim Asmus to punt. And that is Edwin Lovelady back at the 10. Good height, not much distance. And it is out of bounds at the 19-yard line. From there, will the next drive begin? 9:02 to go in the third. In East Rutherford, New Jersey, it's San Francisco by 10 over New York. All kinds of innovative signs making their way around the various stadiums. Is this a Giant mistake? Well, they count. At least they count right now, these games do. And the Giants, looking at 0-3 if they lose, have the football at their own 19-yard line. First and 10. 9:02 to play in the period. Torchikia lofting one and out of bounds. Ed Lovelady made the catch, but he was out of bounds. Guys, we have a crowd tonight. Mr. and Mrs. Jim McAlpine of Hackensack are here. Sally Lundwall of Parsippany and Robert Barr of Mineola. You can ask the entire crowd if you'd like.
That's Harry Carey.
Right. 16,471 is the crowd.
That's only off by what, about 60,000?
Right.
Jerry Keeble making the hit on Jim Torchikia.
Second and 10 from the 20. Earl Beacham takes it through the middle.
What the Jets saw yesterday, 12,000?
12,000. And so it's funny because the average attendance was 16,900 something, as I recall. So it's your average crowd, 16,471. That's a telestrator from the Dumont days.
Bill Belichick, the defensive coordinator, and a fine coach, too. He's been coaching this week.
3rd and 8, shotgun. Torchikia, and it's incomplete. Lewis Bennett, who made that spectacular touchdown catch before. And that touchdown catch by Bennett before was spectacular in any form of football.
Now it'll be interesting to see if the Giants have made any adjustments on their protection of their punter. Remember the last time they punted, it was a San Francisco touchdown. So the pressure came from the right side.
Derek Martin to receive, Dana Moore to kick. Matt Courtney did the blocking the last time. And a short kick. And the 49ers will have the ball at the New York 40-yard line. 8:05 to go in the third after an 18-yard punt. 17-7 San Francisco. 49ers have the football at the Giant 40-yard line. 8 minutes, 5 seconds. Meadowlands last year. And as we come back to live action here, we'll have a chance to visit with Anthony Allen, who's in Washington. Meanwhile, here comes the shotgun again, with Barrajon carrying to the 39-yard line. Anthony Allen, who was cut by Atlanta this summer and then worked his way back into the National Football League. And now a Washington Redskin. Anthony Allen is with us. And your thoughts about what you performed yesterday, Anthony?
Well, I thought I performed pretty well. I was pretty happy about it, and I just basically wanted to come out and have a lot of fun and take things out of the way.
You had a great deal of success. Did you have any indication beforehand or during practice during the week that it might be a special day upcoming for you?
Well, I didn't know how special it would be, but we had a very good game plan going in, and we threw the ball deep a lot in practice, so I knew there would be opportunity there.
Well, throwing it deep right there was Stevens for Monroe for a touchdown. Taking the page out of an Anthony Allen play. A touchdown for the 49ers to Carl Monroe, the man whom we highlighted before as having scored the first touchdown 2 Super Bowls ago.
Just a full sprint, and we mentioned earlier that Mark Stevens threw the ball very well at Utah, as well as running the ball very well. And here he is wide open, getting behind Doug Smith, and yep, that was well laid in there.
A typical 49er setup, though. Run the bone, run about 7 or 8 running plays, and then put it in the air. And Doug Smith, the cornerback, spun all the way around that time, like Carl Monroe has the advantage in just about every way possible. Speed and experience.
Brockhouse now. Galliano holds. The kick is good. And the 49ers are on their way, as expected, to a victory. 24-7 is the score.
Well, Mark Stevens wanted to do more than just run the football out of the wishbone. The fake to Varajan took the Giants by surprise, and that's a pretty pass. Carl Monroe right there. Smith out of the picture, and San Francisco flexes their muscles.
Carl Monroe getting another shot to play in the National Football League, making the most of it. Catches the touchdown pass. And the 49ers have moved out to a 17-point advantage. Line drive, low kick, and a fumble. And picked up at the 17-yard line by Beecham. And he's rolled out of bounds in a literal sense at about the 23-yard line. And again, Anthony Allen is our man in Washington. Had a big day yesterday with the Redskins, Frank.
Anthony Frank Gifford, I'd like to congratulate you. I don't care who you did it. 255 yards, 7 receptions. That's rather remarkable. Let me also ask you, do you know any of the Redskins from the regular roster, and have you had a chance to talk with them?
No, I haven't talked to any of them. I know Calvin Bryan pretty well from the USFL, but I haven't talked to any of the players since I got here Thursday. I haven't really seen anybody.
Anthony, you did it yesterday against the Cardinal team that had a lot of their veterans cross the picket line, and going into that ball game, there was a game that most people thought the Cardinals were going to put you guys away early. It must have been satisfying for you.
Yes, it was very satisfying. We knew there were a lot of players that had crossed the line, and we were, kind of worried about that, but we just went out and played our best and put out a win.
Anthony, with those kinds of numbers, it could be you're going to be around there for a while. How do you think you'll be received when the Redskin regulars come back? Have you thought about that?
Yes, I thought about it. I think it'll be pretty much mixed emotions. Some people that are your friends may let things lay or let things go. But as far as people that may not know you, they may treat things in a whole other perspective and may pretty much dislike you a lot. But I think in time they'll all get over it and things will go on.
It would seem you would be a cinch to stick now with them. Has Joe Gibbs or anybody said that you'll definitely be around when the strike is over?
No one has said, and I really don't expect anyone to say. I'll just wait here and play as long as I can, and when it's over with, go on my way and go from there.
Anthony, thank you. Congratulations on a big day yesterday. Okay.
And the Giants make a major mistake.
Just watching a free football, the kickoff is always live, and recovered there easily by Keever, the linebacker. It just, well, that's what you're going to see.
Well, they must have thought that was a punt or something, the way they were acting. Watch how the ball is just going to bounce. And no Giant's going to make a play for it. I mean, guys, this isn't a drill where you scatter from the football. I think Rico should have had it right off the bat. And then in comes Keever, and he makes it. But
well, maybe Parcells wasn't lying to us after all.
Oh, no, maybe he wasn't, because that's really a silly error.
He didn't get in that situation.
Mark Stevens, the wishbone quarterback. And it is Tony Cherry for a gain of a couple. Let's take another peek at the kickoff.
I think, Dan, you might have called it. I mean, they're thinking punt because everyone was around it. They had 3 players who could have covered it at one time or another. They just didn't even bother to do so.
I mean, you see a late effort by some of the Giants to get to the football, but initially there were 4 or 5 who just turned their back to the ball and were more than willing to let it bounce. That's a sandlot play right there.
Well, maybe that's a dead ball in Connecticut semi-pro play.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't caught much of that action lately.
2nd down and 8, and taking it to the 19-yard line is Mark Stevens.
How hurting are we? Let's look at it again.
Yeah.
From our camera up here on top.
Right there, you have to be thinking in that second line of Giants. See those 4 across there? And now the man has got to come up and play that all the way.
Now the ball does take a 49er hop. It does bounce away from the Giants. It makes it as difficult as possible, but that's a ball you have to catch on the fly.
That is Michael Durrett, and he's a guy who played with the real 49ers last year.
And a guy that Bill Walsh told us this morning that if the rosters end up being expanded to 49 and if this is all settled, that Michael Durrett is one of those guys that has a real shot at being one of the extra 4 players.
Durrett was on the injured reserve a year ago, but he, as Al mentioned, did play in 9 of 11 games in which he was active. And they're looking at the knee.
And I, for one, am surprised and pleased
that there weren't more injuries both yesterday and tonight. I thought that with players coming out and playing games when they really weren't in shape for this kind of contact, I thought we'd see more injuries, and this is really pleasing and nice to see Durrett get up and leave without any apparent serious damage. That's good to see.
What was it? One of the trainers talking about the guys coming in taking physicals. He said we put a mirror up to their mouth, and if he fogged it, he passed.
And if he melted it, he started.
3rd and 4. And it's Barajan.
Hey, I like this kid. I like this Barajan. Look at him bust in there. This guy's been doing this all night long. Mike Barajan out of Toledo. He was a free agent, went to Tampa's camp this year, but look at this effort. After a not-so-nifty handoff from Stevens.
Not cosmetically perfect, but it did have its effect.
Look at this. That's all right.
Because of that effort.
14 carries, 70 yards, and that appears to be Warren Thompson, the outside linebacker. And so there's a timeout here with 5:27 to go in the 3rd quarter, and San Francisco on top by 17.
Charlie Burgess on the sidelines. It looked like Warren Thompson, 97. Actually, it's 91, Charlie Burgess. And footballese, he got his bell rung, plain and simple. We'll show it to you after this play.
Giant Stadium, who, me? How'd I get here?
4th and 1 at the 16. Galliano. Play action on 4th and 1. And he's got a first down. A flag goes down as Chris Dressel takes it to the 8-yard line, but a marker is down.
Dressel was standing there for a good 2 or 3 seconds wide open. Could have walked to the end zone before Stevens found him.
That play took so long to develop. I don't know if maybe a lineman was downfield or someone was held. Who knows? This could be anything.
Holding, 38 defense. Penalty refused. First down.
Doug Smith.
Let's watch this again. Chris Dressel just fakes the block. They call that a slow block. He convinces the linebacker and the safety that he's blocking, and then he just simply releases. And in a game like this, Frank, that works every time.
He was there for the longest time. If they'd have got it to him just a little more quickly, he would have been in the end zone. Strange looking play.
1st and goal from the 8-yard line, and the impressive one, Barajan, out of Toledo, takes it to the 3. Again, Barajan went to camp with Tampa Bay and was cut by the Buccaneers, and now trying to win a spot in the real NFL when they come back.
This guy's going to put a real run at a 100-yard rushing effort tonight. He was close to 60 at halftime, and a good example that time when Barajan was moving forward. The entire blue-shirted pile was going right with him. Tonight, 15 carries, 74 yards for Mike Barajan.
Galliano on 2nd and goal. Rogers, touchdown, 49ers. Del Rogers into the end zone for the 2nd time.
Boy, and I'll tell you, Durrett has come back all right. He put a block on somebody. Put him right up in the seats. Michael Durrett, who went out a moment ago with what looked like a knee injury, leading that play into the end zone. More than leading, he looked like a runaway freight train.
Michael Durrett was playing right guard. Let's take a look at it. He's right here, number 64. Watch him pull and limp and make the kickout block right over here. Fellas, this is the way you stay on your feet, kick the man to the outside, and put him flat on his back. Michael Durrett playing hurt. That's a big-time block.
.354 remaining in the 3rd quarter. And they bring it back to the 13-yard line on a holding call.
Well, at least we know it wasn't Durrett.
Galliano and throwing behind the intended receiver, who was Carl Monroe.
Galliano was really popped when he released it. Toodle came in there and really hammered him.
That was the silent penalty.
Yeah, we never heard Barth.
Gene just marched the ball back and negates that touchdown, and Durrett's
nifty little block. They're calling it that it was holding on Mike Wells, the tight end. So this brings up now a 4th down situation for San Francisco, and Galliano says, I need to talk to the boss.
And timeout San Francisco. So instead of going ahead, what would have been 31-7, it's still only 24-7.
Bill Walsh is yelling at the officials right now. I don't think that he knew that the hold had been called until well after the fact.
And Barth didn't have his mic on as well.
The scoreboard clock is wrong. It's got fourth down. It's really 3rd down. Scoreboard clock was wrong. No timeout.
Oh. I don't blame you for complaining a little bit.
An extra down is worth complaining about.
Yep. And then the penalty is why the scoreboard operator had 4th down, because when they took the penalty, obviously it negated the down.
What do you think about Carl Monroe on this? If they can get him one-on-one, and Galliano can read it, that's probably where they'll go. He's the experienced one.
And he comes out of the slot to the left and runs an out pattern, and they get the ball to him at the 5-yard line. But it's 4th down now. Don Brown made the tackle. Word we get now is that Gene Upshaw has arrived in Chicago and that the meeting began 10 minutes ago. Brockhouse to come in for the field goal attempt of about 22 yards.
Well, I think it's safe to say that a lot got done before Gene Upshaw got there. Marvin Powell is the president of the Players Association, and all the player reps were there. So I think we can assume a whole lot of talking went on before Gene Upshaw walked through the door.
Brockhouse. Galliano spots it at the 12. And the Niners, who thought they had 7, have to settle for 3 after the penalty. 22-yard field goal. 2:58 to go in the 3rd. 27-7 San Francisco. Few guys, I think, in Chicago are going to see the sun come up tomorrow morning. What is it there? It's about 10:20.
You know, one thing we really haven't talked a whole lot about is the fact that they've moved the reporting date up until 1 o'clock now Wednesday afternoon. It used to be 3 o'clock Friday afternoon. That's what it was last week. So the players now have to make a decision a lot quicker than they had to last week. They don't have the luxury of lying around all week and then making a decision Friday morning as we get a good look at Giant Stadium from the blimp.
Interesting talking to Wellington Tim Mara, the co-owners of the Giants tonight, that very few tickets have been returned for next week's game. The Giants against the Washington Redskins, and they are waiting to see what happens in those meetings in Chicago. That, of course, one of the big games for the season for the Giants.
Brockhouse kicks to the 16-yard line. Matt Cummings handles the ball for the first time tonight. And down he goes at the 26, and Lynn Swan is roaming around Giant Stadium. Where are you, Swanee?
Well, right now I'm sitting in a luxury box. We've talked about the big money the players are making and losing, but what about the big bucks they pay for these boxes? I'm right now with Bill Faraday, and your financial institution finances this stadium. How much are you paying for this box?
Well, First Fidelity Bank is paying about $32,000 for this box for the season.
How many boxes do you have here?
We have 2 boxes.
Okay. I'm going to turn to another senior vice president of the company. Rebates are given to fans if they want to turn in their tickets on a per-game basis. What about these boxes? Can you get money back if you didn't want to come to the game?
Sure we could have, but First Fidelity Bank is the bank for the Giants, and we had the opportunity to turn back our tickets or to have our suite be rented by an outside group. We opted to serve our corporate customers and to open both suites for the entire schedule, and we're going to do so.
Now, you invite people well before these games take place. Did any of your customers say they did not want to come to these games?
2 of them. That's it. As you see, we have a full box here, and across the field we have a full suite. Our customers are having a good time, and they're here and staying throughout the evening, so we're happy about that.
Now, you've seen one half of football. Do you think you're getting the value for your money in this football game?
It's not as important as we're getting our value. It's that our customers are enjoying themselves, and we have the opportunity to talk to them and talk about First Fidelity and their banking needs in a very nice atmosphere. So we're happy about it, sure.
Lynn? Well, high corporate entertainment continues to go on at Giant Stadium, Frank. Al?
Now, Lynn,
$32,000 for the box. That's about $64,000 for that commercial.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. Hey, Lynn, pick up a couple visa applications while you're over there.
ABC wants money for the commercial.
Yeah. Oh, yeah? You think it's funny, guys, huh? The bill's on the way. Meanwhile, Mac Cummings is the man who ran the kick back, and it's our first serious injury of the night.
I don't like to see that.
Mac Cummings taking a blow to his left knee, and it's not our position here in the booth to speculation as to how seriously he is hurt, but Mac Cummings is going to go off the field on the back of the little electric cart, and we only wish him well, but took a good shot on the left knee.
All right, for the moment, let's go across the river again to our studios and check in with Al Troutwig. Al?
All right, Al. Joining me still is the owner of the Miami Dolphins, Joe Robbie. Joe, we saw some customers in the box enjoying football, and I'm sure you'd like to see people enjoying football at your new stadium on Sunday. But fact of the matter is now you've already lost one home game, which means roughly $2 million to you, and you're writing off a $100 million debt. Management solidarity is as important as player solidarity. How long can you go without putting out the top product and filling that place?
Well, I'm not going to conjecture what day I'm going broke. No matter how long this strike goes on, I still intend to be around. But you're right. We lost the biggest gate in the history of the NFL, or what would have been the biggest gate. In the New York Giants game was canceled September 27th. And this is a strike in which there are going to be no winners. If I want to gamble, I'd rather be at a roulette wheel in Las Vegas, because at least the house wins there, and maybe somebody else occasionally. But there won't be any winners in this strike. The fans are losing, the owners are losing, the players are losing. It's something like watching a forest fire, because you see millions disappear in front of you that neither side will ever get. That's what happened in 1982. It's a destructive strike, and it ought to be brought to a conclusion as quickly as possible. I hope to see fans, as we just saw at the New York Giants stadium, in their skyboxes entertaining their customers next Sunday, and I'm ready to predict that we're going to have a bigger crowd than they're having around the league when we play Kansas City.
Joe, I want a couple of definitive points from a management standpoint. One, is it at all possible that teams will pay players that they told not to report to camp, like veterans who have big contracts, after they return and the strike is over? And two, should the players harbor any hopes of having the games that were played yesterday and tonight be discounted from the schedule?
Well, in the first place, to pay a player that doesn't come and play would be against the rules, and so I must assume that nobody's going to pay them. Both the Los Angeles Raiders and the San Francisco 49ers have said that they aren't paying these players, and they shouldn't be paid now or later. As to the question about counting these games in the standings, I think the biggest fraud in the public that we could possibly perpetrate would be to bring people to the stadium to see a game on the basis it's going to be counted in the standings, and then to change it. There is absolutely no chance these games are not going to be counted in the standings. We're not going to renegotiate history or alter it. These games are going to be counted, and that's the reason that we're asking fans to come and see them.
All right, Joe, thank you very much for your time tonight. Al Michaels, the owners are looking for new superstars to develop as this strike goes all along, and every time a great play takes place at Giant Stadium, Joe Robbie smiles a bit. Back to you.
All right, Al, we just want to finish up some unfinished business there. Mac Cummings, while we were away, was carted away, but we're going to get a report as soon as we can, and it didn't appear to be as serious as we might have thought at first, but we'll get a further report. And the 49ers, as you saw, recovered a fumble. Carl Keever recovered his second fumble of the night, and thus it is Stevens back to pass at the 23-yard line, with the Niners threatening again and complete down to the 5-yard line to Tony Gladney.
Fine little move by Stevens to get out of a lot of trouble back there. He was dancing around, pulled it down, was going to run once, finally found Gladney, fired it in there. 49ers really now showing their experience. And I think on the other side, the Giants showing their lack thereof. That time out of the wishbone,
Stevens went back to throw, had no one to throw to, and really had about 4 or 5 seconds extra just to stand there because none of the Giants got any penetration whatsoever. And I think if you look in their defensive huddle, they're really fatigued.
Meanwhile, I saw a little signal there from Stevens, who gives the ball to the first man through, Mike Barrajon, taking it to the 3-yard line.
I wonder if that's when he comes up to the line of scrimmage, he sees the defensive alignment, and that dictates which way he's going to take that wishbone.
Well, the 49ers have gotten that sophisticated in this shorter period of time. That really is a testament to how much of a head start they've got. See if we can see it again.
See if there's a correlation this time. It's 2nd down and goal at the 3-yard line.
Maybe he's calling for the curveball.
Oh, there it is. That's the same signal he had a moment ago when they went right.
He's going straight down, according to that signal.
There it is.
Yep, they do go straight down. Back to the 9-yard line, Tony Cherry. Stopped by Chris Davis, number 95. Funny, when you look at the Giants, I don't recognize any guys wearing the big stars numbers.
Giants really went out of their way to not use any of their starters' numbers in tonight's ball game. You notice you see no 56s or 53s or 64s or any of the familiar Giant players. They retired those numbers, and I'm sure the veterans appreciate it watching tonight's game.
And the 3rd quarter is retired. San Francisco leads by 20. Back after this word about an upcoming show on ABC and a word from your local station. Well, gang, they have pulled it off. They said they would. They said they would play the replacement players. At least they pulled it off for 1 week.
One weekend, and you know, it's not up to us to say what we prefer, but I think everyone knows. We just as soon see the regular guys back by next weekend.
3rd and goal, and going in for the touchdown. Carrying it in is Mark Stevens. So his first NFL touchdown, and the 49ers have turned this baby into a major rout.
And Bill Parcells is no longer smiling at the wishbone offense. Mark Stevens has really fired that thing up.
9 yards. He goes in for the score. Galliano, quarterback in the first half, in a more conventional set. Now the wishbone.
Little bootleg. Getting around to the outside. Getting away from Chris Davis. Sprinting into the end zone. Very effective. And again, the 49ers much more experienced. Giants very late in getting started in collecting any kind of a replacement team, and is showing now.
And Brockhouse's kick is good, so it is 34-7 San Francisco.
And back in our booth, Al, I just want to tell you that Frank and I were so delighted that you brought the Emmy that you won last week for the play-by-play and anchor broadcaster of the year. And I can't begin to tell you on behalf of the two of us how glad we are able to touch this and rub it and I'm sorry that we haven't been able to let it sit here in front of us all night long, Al, but we thought that everyone else should see how egotistical you really are.
What does it say? John Madden.
Al Michaels, congratulations, my friend. You deserve this 10 times over.
Thank you, sir. Gents, a pleasure.
Indeed, you have.
A pleasure. And I thank you and Dennis Swanson and the whole gang. It's a great place to work.
Nice stuff right there, Al.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, can I go home now?
Yeah.
Deerdorf, I tell you one thing. I will save you a ride on the way home tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Keep Murray down there. Hope he washed it up.
Coming back for the Giants is Earl Beacham, and he takes it out to the 30-yard line.
Can we put this away now, Al?
That's beyond question. Either that or I'm going to melt it down.
Then use it for a cufflink.
Well, the Giants, as we take a look at the 3rd quarter stats, down by 27.
The Giants, on a serious note, are going to definitely fall to 0-3. We don't have to repeat. No Super Bowl team has ever come out of an 0-3.
Torchikia out to the 36-yard line. Stopped there by Darryl Pollard. And we're in the first minute of the fourth quarter.
This is what's known as quarterback instinct. The rush is going to come right up the middle and make the man leave your feet. I guess it's kind of like basketball. Once you get him up in the air, then it's your turn to make the move. And that time, Jim Kochikia showed he does have some of the instincts it takes to play quarterback.
2nd and 3. Incomplete.
It's not the arm.
Yeah. Can't have it all, can you? If he did, he'd be playing somewhere.
For what it's worth, that was the second game played in this stadium. And they're down by 27 at the moment. 34-7, San Francisco.
I want your opinion on something. Okay, the owners have said that these games are going to count in the standings. I propose that none of the records should count. I mean, I just don't believe that, and I have nothing against young Anthony, but that was not NFL standards under which that record was set. The same thing with Gary Hogeboom, and the same thing with the most decisive loss here at Giant Stadium.
Well, there was an asterisk, of course, with Roger Maris when he broke Babe Ruth's mark, and there are going to be asterisks and parentheses and all kinds of footnotes, I think, in the NFL record book.
The record Anthony Allen broke was set here at Giant Stadium by Gary Clark against the number 2 defensive team in the league a couple of years ago.
I mean, I don't know. Food for thought. Mull it over. I don't think it's fair.
2 flags. We got 3 penalty flags here from the 34-yard line. It's Derek Martin. And he brings it back to the 38.
You know, as you watch the games yesterday and you watch even tonight, I mean, almost anything could happen. You could have 300 yards on receptions if you get a hot passer like a Gary Hogeboom against an extraordinarily weak team if this continues to go on. You could have incredible numbers that could never be even touched again.
Gene Barth.
We have offsetting fouls. 69 defense was offside. The right tackle was illegally in motion on the offense. We'll replay the down.
Bill Parcells has 3 straight wins over this man, Bill Walsh. The last one a blowout of the playoffs, 49-3. And now that memorable one towards the end of the last season when the Giants were down 17-0 to come back and win that 21-17.
And if one play symbolized that game, it was Mark Clavaro carrying all of the 49ers. Bad punt, out of bounds at the 45-yard line, and we've got 13:06 left before 16,000 at Giant Stadium. 20-yard kick. Dan, how do you see the development of this play here?
Welcome back to Giant Stadium.
Every season ticket holder in their seat.
Like the balcony of the theater.
That's great.
The intensity of the fans here at Giant Stadium is remarkable.
And we are rapidly approaching the point where we're going to outnumber them.
From the 46-yard line, Andre Hardy takes it to the 50, and we'll check in again with Lynn Swan. No commercials, Swanee.
Hey, well, the score is 34-7. A lot of the fans have already left the stadium, so we caught a few of them on the way out to ask them why they're leaving and if they come back. Now, with the game being a blowout, would you come back to see these guys play again?
Yes, I would. I've been here since the stadium opened. I have season tickets here. I'd come back no matter what kind of Giant team they put out there.
And what about you?
No, I wouldn't come back. I'd rather see the regular players. I don't like this game.
So if there's scab games going on next week, you won't come back?
No, I won't.
Okay. Guys, I think you have to realize one thing. There's a certain core of fans who have been with these football teams since the beginning, who backed the Steelers when they never won the championship, who backed the Giants when they never won the championship. No matter who's playing on this football field, the real diehard fans are going to be here. And after all, we can appreciate that as former players, that we have somebody who's going to support the teams no matter what goes on. But 12,000, 15,000 a game just won't be enough for an entire season. Guys?
That's good economics. That's for sure.
49ers have the ball at the 48-yard line. 3rd down and 4 as the clock ticks down. 11:45 to go in the 4th. San Francisco on top by 27. Galliano. Monroe can't handle it. And it'll be 4th down.
Well, I guess one thing you ought to point out is that even though the execution here is lacking, and these kids are really in a no-win situation as far as if they don't play well, it's what we expected. If they do perform well, it's against subpar talent that they're doing these, that they're accomplishing something against. But you got to at least commend them, Frank, for their effort. It's tough to fault them.
There's no question. Every one of them putting out everything they have, and many of them not in the condition to do it.
Lovelady calls for the fair catch, and well, if you're going to drop a fair catch, that's where you do it. Out of bounds. 15-yard line. 11:26 to go. San Francisco on its way to an easy win. Al Michaels with Frank Gifford and Dan Deerdorf at Giant Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. 11:26 to go in the 4th quarter. As the Giants take over, they have it at their own 15-yard line. 49ers on top 34-7. Torchikia out of the University of Pennsylvania. And that's dropped in and out of the hands of Charles Coleman. Football Saturday College Variety coming your way. ABC's College Football. Check your local listings as Michigan takes on Michigan State, or Arizona State meets Washington. And then, maybe, I guess, sort of, 9 Eastern time next Monday night, the LA Raiders and the Denver Broncos is our Monday night presentation. Second and 10 from the 15. And a sack back at the 6-yard line by Glenn Collins. Fractured lower right leg is the report on Mac Cummings. He was the fellow who was hurt on that kickoff return, number 19, in the 3rd period. So the first serious injury of the game, the only one thus far.
I hate to see that.
It was the only time he handled the ball tonight.
You look at the 3rd down conversions. The Giants have not converted one yet this game, and the Giants don't even have a 1st down in this half, and we've played almost 20 minutes of football here in half number 2. So Bill Parcells just playing the cards that he was dealt. He doesn't have a say in the acquisition of talent nor in the assembling of this team. He just has to coach them, and he's outmanned, and it's not going to get any better.
George Young really took responsibility for that today, and what it really boiled down to was he did not want to upset, I presume, the regular roster, by going out early and signing players when they left camp, as a lot of teams did. And those are the teams now with the talent. There's only so much of this kind of talent around, albeit not the talent you see on an ordinary NFL day, but there's only so much at this level, and it was swept up rather quickly.
Mike Bush is the new quarterback. Well, this game, in a way, is a manifestation of pretty much the way these two franchises went into this situation. The 49ers thought very long and hard about it, and the guys in the office worked hard at procuring the necessary bodies. And the Giants lagged severely in that department, and the scoreboard reflects it.
Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, but Bush has his chin strap snapped on the wrong snap. He's got it on the one clear to the back of himself.
And his first pass into a whole mess of people. Charles Coleman, the intended receiver.
Well, he wanted to make sure it was on tightly, Dan. He's got 3 options there. one when he calls the play, then when he tightens up, and one when he's anticipating the blitz. That's when you really suck it up.
Interference, number 41 defense. 1st down.
Sort of sums it up.
Reggie Carr. Reggie Carr is about 300 pounds. I mean, it's been a long night.
Reggie.
Yeah, Reg, come on, baby.
Plum tuckered out.
4 to 12. Long time since lunch.
Bush. Oh. Dropped at the 16-yard line.
Bush is in there somewhere.
Under Mark Korf and Doug Mikolas.
They don't mean to be hard on any of these players tonight because, once again, every one of them has put out an extraordinary effort. I saw Reggie Carr a moment ago. Reggie Carr did not come in any kind of shape back to play football. There's no way he could have. Big man, 300 pounds. It takes weeks, really, to get in the kind of shape to play this game and play it properly.
2nd and 23. And Fred Lorenzo out to the 22, and then a flag goes down after the play.
As sand through the hourglass, so moves the clock in the fourth quarter of this game.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness. Number 31 defense, 15-yard penalty, and a first down.
Moving like wet sand.
That's the Giants' first down of the second half. Has to come on a penalty. A little elbow. Well, I've seen worse than that.
Darius Martin getting into with Lewis Bennett.
Wasn't all that much.
37-yard line. Bush. Incomplete. Bush out of South Dakota State.
There are a lot of those types of schools that are represented on the Giants roster. We touched on it earlier. But not only do the Giants not have many players that have been in camps, they don't have many players that have played major college football. Well, that is a major difference.
Tonight on Nightline, the topic will be the NFL strike and an update. And this follows your late local news on Nightline. Bush, pretty spiral, but incomplete. Intended for Edwin Lovelady. And in this quarter, as you know, if you've been with us for most of the night, Mike Adamley is our man on the scene in Chicago, where the player reps are meeting with Gene Upshaw. And before this one is done, we will get further word from Mike.
I know that Bill Parcells is trying to get back in this ball game by putting the football up in the air, but down 34-7. He's got to start considering protecting his quarterback. Right now, the Big Blue offensive line is doing virtually nothing, and the quarterbacks are taking a beating. Krochicki has given it up. Bush has taken it over, and he's not doing much better.
Timeout on the
field. This is color, Dan.
Another look at Mr. Excitement, Reggie Carr on the bench. Whoa, he got off. Reggie's got to go in the ball game.
A little reluctantly, but he'll be there. 3rd down and 10 at the 36-yard line for the Giants. Bush, after taking the timeout, flags and a sack.
This has really gotten ugly up front because the Giants just are being totally ramrodded off the line of scrimmage by the 49ers, and by looking at the flag, you have to assume that it's a hold. Of course, the minute I say that, it probably won't be.
Krochicki has a bruised elbow. That's why he's out of the game.
We have offsetting fouls. Personal foul, a flagrant face mask, 79 defense. We had offensive holding on the left tackle, number 73. We'll replay the down.
Otherwise, no problem. Bush, that's what he was doing 21 days ago. 15 hours a week at the Hy-Vee supermarket. He's also a student assistant coach at South Dakota State. There he is, making his Monday Night Football debut, Mike Bush. 3rd and 10 from the 36-yard line. And a catch is made by Reggie McGowan, and McGowan is inside the 20, the 10, and that's his first catch of the night, and a memorable one. Reggie McGowan.
He got a block from Lewis Bennett that made it all possible right at the end. A big one. He is a little fella, 5'8", 165 out of Abilene Christian.
And Mike Bush didn't see that completion as he ended up on his back again. The blitz comes from the top of the screen. He does have time to get it away, though, before he's hit by Failer, but here's the mistake by San Francisco.
And, of course, the blitz puts them in man for man. And watch the block, and maybe we'll see it right here that springs it all the way. There it is. That block made by Lewis Bennett against Matt Courtney.
And a block kick and a penalty flag and 2 flags.
Really, though, the big mistake on that play was made by Derek Martin of the 49ers, who came up and made a play on the ball rather than on McGowan.
Offside, 77 defense. We'll retry the kick.
So Reggie McGowan, Greg Leiter is the man who was offside. That's great. I mean, here's a kid out of Abilene Christian, 5'8", 165. Someday you can tell kids, grandkids, whatever. I scored a touchdown on Monday Night Football for the Super Bowl champions. Yeah, sure.
You can look it up.
Put that tape in the VCR, babe.
That's right. Steve Hurd will find the play.
Kick is good by Vignola. There he is. A moment to remember for Reggie McGowan, who had not caught a pass tonight. 34-14 San Francisco. Let's go to Chicago and Mike Adamle.
Well, Al, I wish we had some new news to report, but so far there has been no end to these player meetings here in Chicago. All 28 player reps are here, as well as the Executive Council of the NFLPA and about 18 members of the Chicago Bears, so they're letting their voice be heard. Gene Upshaw, the Executive Director of the National Football League Players Association, was late in arriving to this meeting. He, of course, was attending his grandmother's funeral this morning in Texas, and right now they are still behind closed doors. Now, we don't have any idea when this meeting will break up, but we will keep you posted, hopefully before this game is over, and we'll have an expanded report on the strike coming up later on Nightline. So that's the story for now here in Chicago. Al?
All right, thank you, Mike, for that update. Here it's 34-14. Giants touchdown tonight coming on a 46-yard pass play. That fabulous catch by Bennett, and then that 63-yard catch and run by McGowan. And the 49ers, with Thomas Henley running back the kick, will start this drive from out of the 29-yard line. 8 minutes and 48 seconds remaining in the fourth period. San Francisco ahead by 20. '49ers at their own 28-yard line. And there's our man, Carr. You know he is well rested. In the lineup at the 28. Andre Hardy. And a gain of about 8 yards to the 36-yard line. Looking at some of the things that happened yesterday, when you look at the NFL composite stats in your paper coming up this week, John Fulhage will lead the AFC with an average of 46.5 yards a punt. He's the #1 punter after yesterday's action. So.
For Miami?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Yeah. And that's one category in which, I mean, that's a relatively impressive thing. A punt's a punt.
Well, especially after yesterday where the punting average was about 28 yards.
Yeah. Hardy, if a guy is going to lead the league in average yards per carry, that's kind of the type of statistic you would look at curiously and say, well, you know, let's consider the opposition. But when you lead in punting, pretty good.
Obviously, we've run out of people to talk to.
Yeah. And
the blip pilot's gone home.
Well, you know what's coming up, though. It's getting to be about that time for Mr. Deerdorf to tell us some of the parameters of this telecast. It's the first down here. Maybe after the next play, Dan. We want you to warm up.
This will be a historic disclaimer.
Okay. It's certainly not necessary.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I believe you're right, Frank.
From the 38-yard line, 1st and 10. And through the middle and bulling his way ahead goes number 47, otherwise known as Andre Hardy.
Well, for those of you out there who are contemplating bootlegging this telecast, I will tell you this. That this telecast is presented by the authority of the National Football League. It is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or any other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the National Football League is strictly prohibited.
Does the lawyer who wrote that get residuals?
I don't know, but if he does, he's well off.
2nd and 1 from the 27. And it's Tony Cherry who gets bumped back to the 42-yard line.
At least he stayed in bounds.
Tony Cherry, 9th-round draft pick of these 49ers a year ago. He returned a couple of kickoffs before they let him go. That's the makeup of the 49er team. They knew it coming in, and the experience took a little while to show. And that superior offensive line, but about midway through the second quarter, you could see this one was pretty much history.
3rd and 6 now, 6 minutes to go in the 4th. Niners ahead by 20. And the catch is made by Gladney. First down.
Well, he stayed in bounds, too.
Damn, that's not color commentary.
No, but it's pertinent.
Yeah, oh boy, you better believe it.
You need some bops and some biffs and zaps. And,
just stay in.
Too late for that?
Yeah.
It's too late.
That was exciting, though, because he nearly went out of bounds on that play.
Oh, he did. I was going to illustrate it if he would have gone out, how the sideline kind of jumped out at him and snared him.
First and 10 to 43. He's trying to stay between the hash marks. And Tony Cherry is stopped.
Tony Cherry is really getting buffeted around up there. A little more north and south, Tony.
Garrett made the tackle. So what about the standings now, folks, after the 3rd week of play? All right. 2 undefeated teams. Raiders, Bears. And 3 teams without victories. Giants, Lions, Rams. They'll all be 0-3. 2nd and 10. 44-yard line. Tony Cherry. Here you go, Dan.
The sideline got him that time.
Stops the clock, 4:15. All right, let's go to a solitary figure right now, Mr. Lynn Swan.
Well, as I sit lonely up in these stands, I've had time to think about this strike and what's going on, and I don't see both sides being right. I see on the Union side a problem in listening to their players, maybe not getting the correct message that they would strike and stay out over free agency, and a historical problem, a lack of foresighted leadership by Gene Upshaw and Ed Garvey when he was director of the Union. Where the owners are concerned, they're not without their fault either. They've been planning for these replacement games with the replacement players, and it's been a plan that's been ready for a long time. Now, if the Union comes back and says we'll come in and play football without a contract or without free agency being an issue, the owners are going to pounce on that and possibly take back many of the benefits, many of the gains that the Union has already established. There are only going to be 2 winners in this strike. The people who have been in it for the longest amount of time and for the longest amount of time in the future, the owners, and those players who have been in it for the shortest amount of time. Those who are watching tonight on the football field because they made a few more dollars and maybe made a few dreams come true. Guys?
All right, Swanee, we thank you as Ed Blunt takes over for the 49ers at quarterback now as they use all 3, and he hands the ball to Cherry, and Cherry, who did the brunt of the ball carrying on that drive, has it pay off with a touchdown.
Well, at least we were here for this touchdown. That's the first one in 2 quarters we've been here for.
13 yards he goes. And the 49ers, who have wrapped this one up, make it 40-14.
Out of the I formation. Look at the blocking to the left side, just wide open, and the 49ers just have taken total control of this football game up front.
Barakhouse for the extra point. 41-14. 49ers were favored, I don't know, by 3, whatever it was. So if you bet the Niners and the over, it's a big night for you, folks.
You better check with your shrink.
Right.
Lynn brings up some interesting points. We've kind of gotten caught up in the ball game that's actually going on down on the field right now. But, it gets into a strike situation like this. And really what happens, guys, what really weren't issues when the strike started, now all of a sudden become issues. There's a lot of things that the players are talking about that they have to have now that they weren't talking about 2 weeks ago when they went out. Things like, should these games count? Protection for the player reps. There are just a whole multitude of things that every day that goes by, it's almost like something new is on the table, and it becomes a quagmire.
And, well, did they call it an 82 Dan now money when they came back? They really almost financed that strike, the owners did, and they have said with absolute certainty they're not going to do it this time around. It's changing every day and getting meaner. Yep. It's going to be more difficult to bring them all back together again. I think it's also a major mismatch at the negotiating table. You have some of the most powerful, influential, and richest men and women in the United States who've been through the mill, who know all about negotiations against what appears to be, or what they would like on the outside to look like a unified force. But it's really a fragmented group, and they are no match at the table for the powers that be. Even with that, I wish they'd get back to it. I think wise people and people that care about things get together and sit down. Something has to come out of it. Maybe just get themselves into a gymnasium or something, all of them, and sit down and just don't come out of it. Hopefully something like that will come out of tonight. If they don't sit down and talk, nothing's going to happen.
No, there's no arguing on it.
44-yard line. And the pass is caught. Yes. Catch made 30-yard line. Lewis Bennett. Another nice catch for him. He was the man who made the spectacular catch for the game's first touchdown.
That was a great effort by Bush to get that off. A gutsy effort. He knew he was going to get hammered, and he did. Matt Courtney coming right up the middle. Watch him come off between the center and the left guard as he'll come in there, right there with the safety blitz untouched. And
boy, that's sheer courage right there. He knew he was going to take it. Bush backing up as he throws and has an interception at the goal line.
And that's not going to count because there's going to be a roughing the quarterback penalty against San Francisco.
A late shot against Bush, but very late.
Necktied him right along the side of the head. Mark Korf came in and just hammered Bush on the side of the head. Bush isn't up yet. So that interception is going to be negated, and it's going to be a first down for the Giants.
I could have realigned his profile.
Ooh. A blow to the head.
.225 now to play. And what the Giants have opted to do is take the play, which ended with a fumble, and Derek Martin, after intercepting it, fumbled the football, and the Giants recovered. So it behooves them to take the play.
Korf, meanwhile, really laid one on Bush, who's calling for a Kleenex.
Personal foul, roughing the passer on number 90 defense. There was an interception, change of possession. The offense got the ball back again, but because it was a personal foul, we tack it on from the dead ball spot.
All those things. So what it amounts to here is a first and goal at the 7. 2:25 to go in the fourth quarter. 49ers on top by 27. And it's Bush going to the corner and touchdown. Number 88, Edwin Lovelady. And he
beats Derek Martin.
Martin lost his footing on that. That was about the easiest one Bush will ever get. That is, if he has many more gets. Watch 31, Derek Martin. Slips right there. Love Lady wide open. Just waits for it to float in. Derek Martin's been victimized for the last two Giant touchdowns. We know they didn't see it in the tapes. Frank, you and I watched Love Lady practice on Friday, and we saw that he was an athlete. He was in the Giants camp this summer, and matter of fact, Bill Parcells specifically picked him out as a player that could make it and might possibly play. Very short stature, 5'9", 180, but you look around the league, and there are a lot of 5'9", 180 wide receivers that wind up in Pro Bowls.
Giants now trail by 20, 41-21. In the waning moments of this, the end of week 3 of what is now a 15-week and 15-game National Football League schedule. Bill Walsh and his team will fly out after the game and arrive in the Bay Area just about as the sun's coming up tomorrow. And then, of course, Wednesday. That becomes, we'll mention it again, Wednesday, 1 o'clock. That's 1 o'clock in each time zone. If you're, for instance, the Denver Broncos, 1 Mountain, 49ers, 1 Pacific, you have to report by that time to be eligible to play next weekend. So the next 36 or so hours are going to be very interesting.
That as opposed to last week, it's the deadline falling on Friday.
Del Rogers returns the kick after the 25-yard line.
It's a little hard for me to believe that if a veteran player came in on Thursday with a willingness to play, that his team wouldn't take him back. I mean, it'll be interesting to me to see if they enforce that 1 o'clock Wednesday deadline.
Well, the team would probably take him back, but apparently they've issued that edict, and that becomes the rule by which they operate, under which they'll operate. At least that's what they're telling us at the moment, anyway.
Yeah.
Ed Blunt out of the Palouse country of Eastern Washington, Washington State University. Tony Cherry takes it out to the 37-yard line. 2 minutes to play. 41-21 San Francisco.
Giant Stadium, and I think, Dan, we are down from about 16,000 to about 2,500 at the moment. We almost outnumber them. Well, I'll give the fans credit who were here tonight. They were enthusiastic and made a lot of noise early when the Giants were playing well, which surprised them as much as it did us. Now they opened with a wave with a few gaps in it. I don't know that I've ever seen a wave here at Giants Stadium. It's not something they do with great regularity. They're a little too sophisticated for that.
First down, San Francisco at the 38-yard line. Andre Hardy out to the 47.
Hardy's a former 5th-round draft pick of the Eagles. Played in a few games there, and then cut by the Eagles in '84. Signed by Seattle, played a little there. So he's been around like these 49ers. Well, I'll tell you, in his wildest imaginations, I don't think Bill Parcells would have thought before he went into training camp that he was going to be 0-3. That's really all that matters. People can talk all they want to Bill Parcells about there being a strike. Whatever the extenuating circumstances, they're meaningless now. The defending world champions are 0-3, and you know, it's not going too far out on a limb. It's early in the season. There are a dozen games left to be played in this now 15-game schedule, but it's starting to look like if you want to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC, you're going to have to pay a visit to Soldier Field to get there. The Bears already 3-0 and on a roll. And it's a lot of fun in January, isn't it? Good matchup next week, the Bears in Washington. The Giants in Washington. Who do the Bears play next week?
Bears next week play, I'm looking it up as we speak here. They are home against Minnesota.
Okay.
There's a fumble.
49ers have Atlanta at home.
Well, the 49ers, actually, that game has been moved
that,
to Atlanta because of the baseball Giants getting into the playoffs. And then they have another road game, I think, after that as well. The 49ers don't come home until near the end of the month.
Down the line, we have the 49ers again against the Bears, I believe.
Again, they're still meeting in Chicago. There is nothing new to report. A meeting that got underway because of the late arrival of Gene Upshaw a little over an hour ago.
And Nightline tonight has their entire program devoted to the strike, and I guess Mike Adamle will have some reports on Nightline.
Right.
Might be Morning Line.
Yeah. So Bill Walsh will take his 49ers on a charter into the night and back to the Bay Area with a mark of 2-1. The Giants are 0-3. There's your final. 41-21 San Francisco. George Hill, our statistician, a happy 40th birthday, and Kelly Hayes, our great spotter. Our thanks to the guys in the booth, and Al Michaels along with Frank Everett, Dan Deerdorf saying good night from Giant Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. This Saturday, ABC Sports presents the AT&T Tennis Challenge. John McEnroe, Yvonne Lendl, and Jimmy Connors are scheduled to compete. You'll see semifinal action live. And then ABC's college football features two conference rivalries. Michigan against Michigan State or Arizona State at Washington. Check your local listings for the game in your area. It all begins live at 1 Eastern Saturday on ABC.